603, so you can.
Right. As Mr. Camacho mentioned, we are starting with our public hearing, and just because the recording was a bit delayed, I just want to reiterate for the record, it is Wednesday, June 17th. We started at 6:03 p.m. The first public hearing item is NYC Buildings presenting on Local Law 152 for periodic gas piping system inspection. DOB, Crystal, I'll let you introduce folks.
Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yeah, Crystal, can you hear me?
Yes. Okay, excellent.
Yeah,
Good
so
afternoon, everyone. I'm joined here by my colleagues from the local law unit, who will be presenting on the periodic inspections of gas piping systems. I will pass it over to Kevin King. You want to introduce yourself, and then
Yes.
Go ahead, introduce yourself and the rest of us.
Hi, can everybody hear me?
yes, sir.
Crystal, give me a thumbs up if everyone can hear me. Okay, so thank you all for having us. I'm Deputy Director Kevin King from the Department of Buildings, Gas Piping Compliance and Boiler Unit. With me today is Chief Inspector Raphael Trulson, Plumbing Enforcement from the Department of Buildings, and also my director, David Warshaw, also from the Department of Buildings. Boilers. Next slide. We have our agenda. And this will be a brief presentation. So we're just going to quickly talk about the local laws for gas safety that were implemented in 2016. We're going to focus in on Local Law 152 and the rules of the City of New York, Rule CNY 103-10. We won't go into a lot of detail. We'll just briefly describe it. We'll talk a little bit about Local Law 152 compliance, the deadlines, and a little bit how the inspection works. And some dates to Rule CNY 103-10. And then if we have time, we'll get into a little bit more about the inspection. So these are the local laws for gas piping safety or gas safety in general that were implemented in calendar year 2016. There's quite a few here, so when we share the slide deck, you can click on the links and look at each one. Today we're going to focus on the one that's highlighted, which is Local Law 152, periodic inspections of gas piping systems. And on the next slide, so this is done in accordance with Article 318 of the Administrative Code. And in Article 318, it focuses in on buildings classified in all buildings except for those classified in occupancy group R3 under Section 310.1.3 of the Building Code. So basically, just 1 and 2 family homes are excluded. That's essentially it. As well as under the current code, any mixed-use properties, primarily 1 and 2 families. Okay? And at least once every 4 years, those buildings that must comply need to submit a periodic inspection according to the schedule, which is on the next slide.
Hold up, Kevin. Crystal, is there an audio issue?
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Are you hearing us? Because I read in the chat that somebody can't hear.
So we can,
I didn't hear that.
One sec, Kevin.
Yeah, we can, do folks have a issue hearing? I know there's some feedback, but we can hear in person. So I don't know if there's a Zoom issue. We're not able to hear what Zoom hears, but we can hear you in person.
Okay, and I'm also on Zoom, joining from my borough office, and I'm able to hear. So what I did was I just threw the Local Law 152 link from the Department of Buildings in the chat for everyone, and I think it's safe for Mr. King to resume, if that's okay with you. Sorry for the interruption.
Yes, please continue.
Go ahead.
So the next slide, we have the Local Law 152 RCNY 10310 schedule. Now, this is posted on the building's website, and it's also described in RCNY 10310. But if you go to the building's website and look up gas piping compliance, you'll see the civil penalty chart. And what it does is it outlines exactly what community boards are responsible for filing and when. All right. Now, this goes all the way back to cycle 1, which began in 2020. So just to be clear, the local law was ratified and passed in 2016, but the cycle structure for filing began in 2020, right? So the way to read this is sort of the way you would read any cross chart, where you look for your sub-cycle in the far, in the community district column, and then the rule based on what community board you fall under, that rule, if you go to look at cycles 1, 2, or 3, you see when that filing cycle was. For example, community board 4, right? And this is all boroughs, any borough that has a community board 4 property, those buildings were responsible for filing from 2022, January 1st to the end of the year of 2022. That was cycle 1. And then cycle 2 is this year, right? So essentially, all buildings in Community Board 4 must comply with the local law by December 31st of this year. And then your next cycle for filing would be in 2030. All right, so hopefully that's clear. All right, so we can go to the next slide. This, I'm not going to go through this in detail, okay? This is just describing in a nutshell what the responsibilities are and who has those responsibilities. So in the upper sort of right portion, you see the licensed master plumber. That's who does the inspection. So in brief, owners under the local law must hire a licensed master plumber to inspect their gas piping and file a compliance report with us, right? Now, there may be some issues, and by that I mean there may be some reasons why an owner can't comply. For example, maybe the building, even though it is a 3-family or more or a commercial property, maybe it doesn't have gas. Maybe there's no gas piping, or maybe there's no gas service to the building at the time that the inspections due. Well, there are provisions for that, right? So you still need to notify the Department of Buildings through a licensed professional or through a utility company. And if you go online, it describes exactly how to do that, right? We won't go through that in detail here, but all those details are on the website, and it's also in the rule, CNY 10310. So there's a provision for that. But let's say you have the gas piping, and you can do an inspection. Well, then there's a certain period in which you have to file, right? The plumber is supposed to give you, as the owner or the building property manager, whoever, the report based on the inspection within 60 days. And then within 120 days from the inspection date, we must receive it in the department. Currently, everything is done by paper. Mr. Trulson is going to get into that, and he'll show you that. But in a few, let's say sometime this summer, very soon, we're going to go into DOB Now. So all filings will be in DOB Now by the end of the summer. Okay? And obviously, if there are defects found, you must correct the defects within a certain time frame and get that in, and get the report that the defects were corrected into us within either 120 or 180 days, depending upon if you need additional time, then you can get 180 days from the date of inspection. And I actually misstated something. Let me back up. I said 60 days from the date of inspection to get the report in. That's not true. It's 30 days. Within 30 days of the inspection, the plumber must give the owner the report, and then the owner submits to DOB within 60 days. So I misspoke there, so I apologize. It's the 120 days is to correct the defects, and then you can get an additional 60 days from the initial inspection to get it in. So all of that is laid out in the rule. If I confuse anybody, I apologize. It's in the rule. You can read it and get clarity there. All right. And of course, the final thing is, if a report is not submitted to us properly within the time frame, it can result in a full penalty, right? And that penalty currently is for 3-family homes, $1,500, and for all other properties required to file, it's $5,000. Okay. So hopefully I didn't confuse anyone too much, but again, all the deadlines and everything are laid out online. Let's go to the next slide. So there were some updates when the original local law and rule were written. There were certain provisions that weren't included that we recently included, beginning with January 3rd. So now the licensed professional who does the inspection is required to notify the department within two days before, right? So, for example, if you hire a plumber for your building to do an inspection next week, 2 days before then, that plumber is supposed to notify us of the inspection. Okay? Utility companies you can get a letter from the utility company for no gas service. I think I mentioned that earlier. That was in the original rule, but it wasn't sort of clearly laid out. So the new rule kind of clarifies that when it's okay to get a utility company letter stating that there's no gas. If there's no gas piping in the building, you only have to certify that one time, right? Filing fees are being introduced. Actually, they were introduced effective with the revised local law. However, we have not been collecting those. But when DOB Now Safety goes live this summer, that will become part of the filing. There will be a filing fee. And the other thing is when there's a violation issued, the old version of the law did not require a current compliance to get the violation dismissed. Now it does. And the idea is if you got a violation, it means you did not do the inspection. So now you have to do an inspection to get into compliance in addition to paying the fine. Okay? That's what that means. And then, of course, there are certain circumstances when a property owner legitimately, even though the building is required to file and does have gas service and or gas piping, there may be legitimate reasons why they didn't file. For example, the building is being demolished or was demolished by the time the report was due. Or it changed ownership. It was sold to a completely unrelated person or entity sometime after the report was due. So those are two examples. Again, Rule RCNY 10310 lays out all the violation civil penalty waiver provisions. You can look those up and get more details on those. Okay? So at this point of the presentation, I would turn this over to Chief Trulson to discuss more detail, a bit more description on how the inspection is conducted. Crystal, are we ready with that? Or okay, so I'm going to turn it over to Ralph.
All right. Hello. You guys can hear me? Perfect. Hello everyone. So when these LMPs are hired or when you guys consult with them, they come in and they fill out, they conduct their inspection and then they're supposed to fill out two forms. As of right now, there are two forms. As Kevin stated earlier, once we go into DOB Now Safety, there will only be one form that they would fill out, but for the time being, there's two forms that they fill out. It's known as a GPS-1 report and a GPS-2 report. The GPS-1, both reports are given to the owner, and then the owner is supposed to send to DOB the GPS-2 report. The difference between the two is that the GPS-1 report is a little bit more detailed. So if a plumber finds what we call a condition on the property that needs to either be mitigated or it just needs to be reported to the agency, that's what's going to be on that GPS-1 report. And then on the GPS-2 form, if there are no conditions found, he'll check off, one of the, I think it's the first box here that says that the building is in compliance, the date that he did the inspection, and that everything is okay. In the event that he does find a condition that requires some sort of mitigation, then he's either gonna see if he can get it done within that 30-day window, or if he can't, he's gonna apply for an extension, which is what Kevin was talking about earlier. So that's the extensions added to the 60 days that you get. So you'll get a total of 180 days to get it when you file an extension to get the report into the agency. You can scroll up. So this is the GPS-1 report that I was talking about earlier. As you can see, it's a little bit more detailed. This is a lot of plumbing stuff, so I don't want to start confusing anybody, but the LMPs, obviously, he's going to look for like improper connections for certain things, and then whatever he finds, he's going to write what these conditions are and how they can be mitigated. Or if he finds nothing, he's just gonna correct no conditions observed. Um, and then basically give those forms in to you guys. Yep, you can scroll up, Chris. That's fine. Uh, so in the event that they do find something that's hazardous, that's what this slide is. The LMP is supposed to notify not only you all as the owner, but he has to notify us as Department of Buildings. And if it's something like a gas leak, he has to also report it to the utility company. Because that's something that needs to be taken care of right away. So all entities need to be informed of that condition if it's found. So a hazardous condition based on what an LMP or us as Department of Buildings, even the utility company will consider something extremely hazardous. The utility company usually labels it as a Class A condition, which is what they consider a immediate hazardous condition. As you can see on the slide next to it, it's obviously you have a leak on the pipe. Or there's carbon monoxide detected based on some sort of backfire, either on your hot water heater or your boiler, or maybe the venting system for either one of those two units is clogged and is creating a carbon monoxide issue. Or there's another hazardous condition that can cause a serious injury to the location. So that is what the utility considers a Class A, and those are the ones that need to be reported to not only us but to you guys as well when they're found. So uh, this is why it's required. This is local law 54. It was also introduced in 2016 along with local law 152. So 154 means that the utility company on their end, if they find something, they are to also notify us of whatever conditions they find. We've highlighted here what is mainly important to you all as owners. So we highlighted, obviously, as I went over earlier, Class A, and when you know why Class A is considered more hazardous. But the utility company under local law 154 actually contacts us for both Class A and Class B. Class B, real quickly, is just things that are um, they're illegal but not hazardous at that moment. Like they can make the site safe, or they can make the condition, they can sort of remedy the condition at the moment, and make it safe so that there's no injury. So that's what's considered a Class B. And that's about it from all of us. This is our contact information. Um, in the first group is the administrative group. That's local law compliance unit. You can call them. You can email them. They'll answer anything pertaining to local law 152 that you all may have questions. If it gets a little technical, that's our number. DOB Plumbing Enforcement. That would be my group. And we can answer any technical questions you guys have. A licensed plumber, you guys don't feel comfortable with that licensed plumber, you might want to get a little bit more information on that licensed plumber, or what may have you, or maybe what the inspection he did. You can give us a call and we can go and verify all that. And I think that's it, right? So I can't see the last slide. But
Sorry.
yeah, no, so I believe
That
that's
was
it.
it.
So yeah,
Right.
that's all we have, folks.
Thank you so much for that presentation. We'll start with any questions or comments from the board, and then we'll be followed by the public. Go ahead. Folks can just come up. If you need accommodation, we can bring the mic to you as well.
Annette Spelling, Community Board 4. I have two questions. Number one is there a set fee that the plumber should be charging the homeowner for the inspection? And number two, should an inspector be submitting the form for the owner? And is there a number that the owner can call to check to see if the inspection form has been submitted?
Okay.
As far as the fee, we do not get involved with the fee, with the plumber. So we would not be able to answer that question. As far as the fee, it all depends, I'm sure, upon the type of building property it is, from a 3-family, to a 40-family, so the fee is going to be different. We wouldn't get involved with that. The second question was about filing.
So, the code, the rule
What's
is
the
basically
second question?
the second
Second
question
question
was,
is in reference to the filing. Some of the inspectors have filed for the owner. Is there a way for the owner to double-check to make sure that the form has been filed?
yes, they can call the number for the local law administrative group that was shown earlier. Crystal, if you could pull that back up again, and they can call that number and verify that.
Hi, everyone. Yes, the local law email address and telephone number has been listed in the chat. It's also available, is publicly accessible on the local law 152 webpage for the Department of Buildings, which I will also put in the chat. And you will receive a live representative. You will not receive like an automated machine. If you're having any trouble navigating the system, you're always welcome to reach out. I will put my information in the chat, or of course, go to Community Board 4, and then they can reach out to me, and I can do further research and provide an answer.
Some folks in person are asking if someone can share the number that was put in the chat because we weren't able to see it.
I will definitely put it in the chat. Celeste, I will also send you a follow-up email with all of that information just to make sure if it needs to be disseminated to everyone in attendance, and even anyone that reaches out later on, you'll have that easily accessible. I just want to add one more thing. On the Local Law 152 webpage, they have developed a list of properties that are subject to comply in case there's any uncertainty, whether you're required, whether you're subject to comply. There is a list there. And of course, you're always welcome to reach out to me. So I will put all that information in the chat.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Felix Ceballos, CB4 member. My question is, I'm sorry if you mentioned what I'm going to say before, but my question is, you mentioned three family property, and I want to make sure if it's 3-family property and more after that, if 2-family property and 1-family property, if they don't qualify for that, they don't have to make the inspection. Thank you.
Okay. The question is a 3-family qualified for the inspection?
Basically, the question was to ask you to reiterate who has to submit for inspection.
Oh, and any.
I'm sorry, because you mentioned 3-family property, and soon after that, all of them had to make the inspection. But I want to make sure if 2-family property and 1-family property, they don't have to do the inspection.
No, 1 and 2 families homes are exempt.
Hi, Cirillo Nunez here, Community Board 4. I just wanted to share my experience as a landlord. I just had the inspection done. If there are no problems, it's relatively quick, a few minutes. They basically came in, tested all the pipes to my gas boilers. I got 3 of them. Then they go to the apartment, do a quick check by the door, and you got to pay $600 on the spot. At least that plumber that I hired charged $600.
Andy Okeneff at large member. I called that 353 number. I had an inspection of my gas piping from the DOB on Thursday. He told me he would send me something in the mail. He didn't give me any paperwork, and I don't have gas at my house, and it hasn't really worked, that number, for me yet. I don't know if you could look into the case specifically at 131 Woodbine Street, because I had an inspection on Thursday, and I don't have a gas
Okay.
authorization.
Yes. So your question is more of Is this pertaining to a permit that you have on site?
A permit that I have on site? No, it was to get a gas authorization to give the National Grid.
Right. So in order to get that, you need a permit, and then they do all their inspections. If
We can follow up. So this is considered a service request, not ideal for a public hearing because they're not prepared
I kind
to
of disagree
to answer.
because it's been over a month and DOB isn't helping me deal with National Grid and I've been showering with a bucket.
So you flagged
I
it for their
provided my
attention.
information in the chat.
Yeah.
You could feel free to send me an email and I'll follow up
Yep.
directly with you if you like. And you could just copy Community Board 4 on there and I will follow up with you directly. Thank you.
There you go.
Courtney Henley, Community Board 4. I just had a question because that gentleman mentioned that he had to pay $600. Is there any kind of subsidy or anything for like small landlords who maybe can't afford that?
So not from the Department of Buildings, however, other resources may be available through other agencies or organizations.
All right, I see no one else in person. Do we have anyone on Zoom? And just a quick note going back to what I was saying earlier, you can wait 30 days, you can wait until we have a public hearing to bring a service request to an agency's attention, or you can contact our office right away and not wait. So if there's any issue, no gas, no heat, no hot water, 311 is the best number to call first. Provide that service request number to us. If you're unable to call 311, we can support you with that and follow up with the agency right away so you're not left in a difficult position. All right. I don't see anything else for this item. We thank you, DOB, for being here, and we will certainly follow up. All right.
Thank you, everyone. Appreciate your time.
We will move on now to the second public hearing item, which will be our Permits and Licenses Committee Chair, Christine. Let's welcome her presenting on the proposed Good Neighbor Policy.
Good evening, everybody. Let's see. I can kind of see it. So tonight I'm just presenting the Good Neighbor Policy, which is something the committee has worked on for the last couple of years. This is a super busy committee, so we don't often get the opportunity to proactively think about policy. A lot of the time we're just more reactive rather than proactive, unfortunately. So this was an attempt to kind of revisit our policies and clarify them sort of in the vein of our responsible development policy, which the chair of the Housing and Land Use Committee and Christian had presented some, I think, earlier this year. So I'm just going to go over a couple of the main points of it, and then I know there are copies circulating around for more context. So basically, just to get started, you can go to the next slide. So the purpose is really to promote responsible business operations through clear expectations. Yeah, it's a little small for everyone to see, but through clear expectations, consistent standards, and proactive management of neighborhood impacts. Next slide. So the context is that some neighborhoods in Bushwick, not all, of course, but some of them have really had a very dramatic increase in nightlife activity in the last couple of years, particularly since COVID. So a lot of concerns have grown out of that. There's a list of them there. The most frequent one that we hear is about sound. But also sanitation, public safety, and even concerns around the lack of retail diversity and the fact that rents have just exploded, so it's really hard for other types of businesses to make a profit in town. Next slide, please. This info is a little bit dated, but there are some statistics here about Bushwick in particular. This is from the end of last year, so it's still probably relevant, but could stand to be updated. Basically, there were some articles written about the prevalence of 311 complaints throughout the city. And as we know, 311 is great, but also imperfect. It's kind of an imperfect but helpful tool. But some analysis was done, and basically, Bushwick was in the top 10 of the noisiest neighborhoods in New York City, and second in Brooklyn only to Williamsburg. And if you sort of normalize that information, that data based on population, there were quite a bit more noise complaints in Bushwick. Next slide, please. So this is just the framework of all the points that we tried to address in the Good Neighbor policy. And I'll go through them briefly one by one. You can go to the next one. First off is community outreach. So we're expanding our guidance to encourage applicants to engage with both neighboring businesses as well as nearby residents early in the process. So we're hoping that this will help them identify and address concerns before they become issues, and sort of like trying to facilitate communication amongst community members so that they're less coming to us to complain and more maybe trying to sort things out on the ground. Next slide, please. Next, there's a long list there of all the different agencies that we sort of help the businesses coordinate with. There's a lot of resources that are available to small businesses that they might not be aware of, and these are sort of helpful in allowing them to operate responsibly and safely and legally, all that sort of thing. Next slide, please. Next, we were already doing this, but there's a little bit more information about employment opportunities and suggesting that businesses prioritize local hiring, post to the Bushwick's job board, information like that. Next slide, please. And here we've just updated some of the required documentation and clarified some of our processes and procedures, our stipulations, that sort of information, and we'll hopefully be doing a little bit more of that work over the summer break, just to make guidelines a little bit clearer, more transparent for the applicants. Next slide, please. So again, we did the bulk of this work last year, actually, and this is sort of cute now. We considered large-scale venues to be over 100 capacity. Now we can count a bit higher, but the idea basically remains the same, that we're trying to help implement operational safeguards, asking questions about, how traffic will be managed, human, people lining up, queuing, that sort of thing, before and after events, and just trying to manage these neighborhood impacts ahead of problems to ensure the public safety. Things have obviously gotten a lot bigger. Venues have gotten a lot bigger since then. So we'll probably continue to update this this document. Next slide, please. And so again, one of the biggest, I've sort of taken each of these categories in order as they appear in our policy, but sanitation, as I mentioned, is probably the second biggest concern that people are talking about. So we're mentioning proactively that businesses should consider not only their inside establishment, but also outside of their establishment, make sure that it's clean and safe and welcoming to the community. Next slide, please. So outdoor events, there's just some additional guidance on outdoor events and how they should be planned and managed in ways that minimize impacts on residents and the surrounding streets. This is sort of in line with open streets as well. And next slide, please. Finally, there's just some notes in there about patron expectations and the business's responsibilities. We've often heard, sort of a passing the buck, or like, the patron being unruly when they leave the establishment is not really our responsibility. So we've just tried to proactively encourage businesses to kind of take responsibility for their sidewalk outside and patron behavior as they're leaving. Next slide, please. And so last but not least, we're going to obviously continue working on this, developing additional tools and resources. The new very large venue, Pacha, has pledged some money over the next 10 years, to help with some of the issues, and we're hoping to think about how we might be able to mitigate some of these impacts on the community. Some ideas include noise cameras, decibel meters, also having like community contacts, like outreach coordinators for nightlife issues. And personally, I would love for us in the office to have some sort of a database where we can track applications of different applicants, you know, and kind of just like see their history of what they've applied for. And that is about it. Next slide, please. Does anyone have any questions?
Any questions, comments? Yeah.
Is that because it was short? You're welcome.
I also, yep, if you want to just come up to the mic.
Hi, everyone. Christian Celeste Tate, first vice chair. First of all, thank you for this. This is super helpful. Good to walk through, and also has been helpful on some of our other committees and talking about how we can similarly standardize things. I know that the PLC committee already uses a pretty strict set of stipulations for new applicants. So I'm wondering if doing this work produced any changes to those stipulations that y'all are going to use going forward.
That's a great question. So, yeah, our stipulations, they're about, you know, amplified music outdoors and closing times of outdoor spaces, rooftop bars, that sort of thing, and also, most importantly, the hours of alcohol sales, which are Sunday through Thursday until midnight, and then Friday and Saturday till 2 a.m. So it didn't really change anything. I will say that probably when we first were, we've had those stipulations in place for a couple of years now. I think we might continue to add some stipulations about like proactive signature getting and maybe traffic management, other things like that. I think that when we first started having these conversations, that's sort of what prompted, it was kind of the opposite. Like we had gone through the stipulations and then decided to update the policy in function of that. So, and the idea here being that we're really just trying to change the nature of the relationship of the way businesses come to us, hopefully, and have a more of a collaborative spirit. Of course, they can go and ask for much later hours with the state liquor authority, and sometimes do, but we sort of feel like we're representing the community first and foremost, and then, you know, the SLA will do what they will, but we're kind of first and foremost, you know, trying to take into account what the community needs.
Go ahead.
Courtney Henley, Community Board 4. I wondered if you know, is there any legislation pending, or can we propose anything to give the community board more authority? Because I think it's crazy that the state liquor board can say 4 and we say 12.
Yeah, that's not really a question for me. If anything, I would say in the moment is more in the opposite direction of kind of reducing our authority a little bit. We are just advisory, but yeah, it's a great point. It's been a bit of a tension. Similarly, also with other committees, you know, what are the boundaries of what you can work within, and you know, how much to ask for, how much of a carrot, how much of a stick, and ultimately we don't have any power of enforcement. So we try to work with all of these various agencies and partners to do the best we can. Not ideal, but.
If I may add, this definitely does come up often. And one thing to say, with that responsibility comes liability. And so often the board is an advisory role. You can provide input without being held liable if something were to happen. So that means not getting sued. One thing that the board could emphasize is asking for elected officials to have more authority to enforce board advisory recommendations. That way the accountability and responsibility is still with the legislature. So that's something that could be discussed on the committee level.
Yeah, thanks so much, Les. As always, like mentioning this to our local electeds helps a lot.
Felix Ceballos again, a CB4 member. What I'm going to say is a comment and question in the same time. Some area here in Bushwick, I don't know what happened, but we are out control about the business, more in bar and restaurant. It's so many business in the same area, a lot. And my question is, I don't know, like board, what we can do to try to put some control. Christine know about some area, is so many business, and Christine say we try to make a good relationship with them. But the question is how we can make some control about that, because our neighborhood now, they have to support all the noise and very late in the morning. So that is my question. If we have can implement some control for that kind of situation. Thank you.
Celeste. I don't know.
You want to mention the 200 and 500 foot rule, how that's...
Sure. Good,
Yeah.
good prompt, Celeste. So technically, there's not supposed to be any hard liquor establishments within 200 feet of a school or a church. And technically, there's not supposed to be more than 3 on-premises liquor licenses within 500 feet. There are some places near the Jefferson L where we have something like 40 within 500 feet, and then we have some other areas of Bushwick where there's like 0. So, so yeah, I don't know exactly, but I will say also I see the NYPD there. They've been really great in starting to attend our permits and licenses committee, so I hope they'll be helpful in enforcing. We are thinking of other ways with, getting the DEP involved and considering about these, proactive sound meters and that sort of thing. But I agree with you. In some areas, it's very much out of hand, and some areas would love more business. So it's a diverse district.
So I'll just add that oversaturation is new to Bushwick, right? This isn't something that we have lived through before in this way. There's precedent at other community boards that have been dealing with this for much longer, where they have like groups that have organized, right? And they can say, hey, listen, we have certain corridors where this business is more appropriate. We don't think it's appropriate in this area. So we highly encourage you to relocate your business or plan differently. And they have been successful in encouraging and influencing the market in that way. So.
Yeah, that would be wonderful. I feel like by the time people get into contact with us, they already have like a signed lease and the whole thing. But it would be wonderful if there was a way to kind of encourage that sort of, some sort of incentive to make it a little bit more equal across the district. Also, I will say it's funny because we had a walkthrough of Bushwick a couple of years ago with Assemblymember Davila's office, and the professionals from the Office of Nightlife from Manhattan were sort of like, what's the problem here? and it's because, they're used to the Lower East Side or the East Village or Times Square or, this on the face of it, to people who go to who manage businesses in Times Square, it looks very gentle here. Like I said, it's cute that we thought a big establishment was 100+ people a year ago, but it's really the speed with which it's happened, and the really bumping up. I personally think that it's also because we have so many areas that are industrial that bump up against very residential areas. So it's sort of overlaps a little bit with housing and land use stuff, where we've got like major, huge, industrial buildings just waiting to become a nightclub, and then across the street, houses where people live. So I think it's a particular problem as well for us.
Go ahead.
Hello. Happy last community board day of the fiscal year. So I actually just kind of wanted to touch on a couple of things. Oh, I'm Gio Justiniano, CB4 member. I'm also a member of the Permits and Licensing Committee. Some of you have heard me speak about some things quite passionately. But some of the things that we've experienced this year, reviewing license applications, are a lot of what Christine touched on. So that is sanitation issues that we have in the community, noise complaints, and it's not just how loud the music is, but it's also the vibrations that that music sends to tenants across all hours of the night. To Ceballos' question about things that we can do to mitigate, at this time, that falls largely with the precinct, right? It's the NYPD who's responsible for staying on top of these things, right? If you submit a 311 complaint, the business has a lot of 311 complaints. NYPD is supposed to be coordinating with them, establishing meetings with them in Office of Nightlife to talk about ways that they can mitigate those things. It is not often successful in our experience. To touch to Christine's last point also, in that the reason why there's such a concentration of nightlife in this area in Bushwick, which is largely off of the Jefferson stop on the L train, is that that area is largely industrial, and where we were at a place in time where a lot of our politicians were very pro, I don't know, like industry in that area, right? Like manufacturing, pro-manufacturing gigs. No one seems to care about the manufacturing gigs anymore. So now that those businesses are leaving, no one's protecting them either. Nightlife is the only place that can afford to take over those spaces, which is a problem, and no one is really having the conversation on how to encourage diversified businesses to take over those spaces. Hi.
Hi, Ann Guiney, Housing and Land Use Economic Development Committee. This is a very, very active question on that committee. So I do want to just beg to differ and correct the record, because that's just, with great respect, not correct. It is something that we are fighting for actively. We have been fighting for honestly, the 15 years I've been on that committee. It's an extremely dynamic and not easy conversation that happens every single month. So thank you.
Yeah, I didn't mean to be disrespectful to the Housing and Land Use Committee. What I meant is that, like, I don't think politicians are really having these conversations. I know the conversations had surfaced because loft tenants who were in some of these spaces, like, there was a lot of politicians who were staunchly against, preserving some loft apartments because of the manufacturing jobs that we have and the amount of people that we have working in those places. I don't think people are I think people outside of the community board are not having those conversations anymore and not really talking about how to protect those tenants or how do we, again, encourage other businesses to come and take over these spaces. So that's a conversation that I think is worth having. In addition to Pacha joining us, it does set a precedent for that's part of the neighborhood that has such a high volume of nightlife because, they got granted their temporary license. In our experience, the State Liquor Authority tends to rubber stamp temporary licenses after they've already gotten them, regardless of what infractions they might have. So it's frustrating because a lot of the politicians are not really talking with the State Liquor Authority about mitigating these things, about sticking within the 500-foot rules and the 200-foot rules. And then when you do have a business that is within 500 feet of another liquor license and they are, it's too close, we can flag that that's an issue. But if the business is like, well, we sell, we're playing dominoes and throwing darts on the wall, the SLA will think that that's a different business and think that it's good to have them in the area. So that's also why we have such a large concentration of liquor licenses. We do need to figure out how to talk about expanding or reducing the amount of licenses that are happening in that area. But that's some of the issues that we're having right now and what we've experienced this session. That's all. Thank you, Ann.
You're welcome. And also, we really need to put, and I know that there are people here that are PD, yes, they need to do a better job in regards to enforcing the 311, but if it's anonymous and no one comes forward constantly that we also get it on CB4. When they call anonymous and they say they don't want to report it, then what do? How do we stand straight? And if they get there, and the 311 they get there and they have a lot of jobs and they get there and they say it's unfounded. So they write on there that it's unfounded. People got to step up, and say, well, I'm from this place. This is the noise I'm hearing. Come to my house, ring the bell. Now they have a person they can call and they can go to. Because if you say you're anonymous, and then drive around, an hour or two later, everything already happened. So we really need to enforce that. And also, the 500-foot rule, we need to enforce that too. Why is it there? You know, if you don't have it there, we really need to enforce that 500-foot rule and the 200-foot rule, and don't leave loopholes in there. Also, these are things that we have to tell our elected officials to change. The agency gets paid. That's a separate agency. The more liquor license they get, the more goes into their pot. All right? So we really need to, you know, we fighting, yeah, but we need to change the law, because everybody here changed the law for everything else, and fight for everything else. We need to change the law because it doesn't affect you because you don't live in that area, but when you live in that area, they have a problem, and you say, wait a minute, and this is a community. So we need to support those people and help those people over there regardless. And we got to hold people accountable over there when they are, because all they're thinking about is ching ching, let the cash register ring. And when they come to us and we say 4 in the morning, they bouncing from place to place, you have to change because they changed the method of operation. They changed license. And once the guy moves out and says, I want to keep a corp, and they want to change each other, then they can use the same hours they have. They don't have to come to the community board because they know how to finagle that. We know that. So those are laws that got to be changed in order for us to be successful. Because then we can put a lot of pressure. You're 100% right. Because it's not fair that you live there and you got to sleep. And then what they do, they party at night, they sleep in the daytime, and then when us, Spanish people, play the music in the daytime, they call the cops on us, because I know a couple of people that will go at 11 o'clock in the afternoon, and the guy's got music there. Why? Oh, I got to sleep, but sleep in the nighttime, not in the daytime, because you just party 4 in the morning. Now you want to sleep? Let's be realistic. So it goes both ways. I'm here to support both ways to make sure this side of the community get their sleep too. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Camacho. And I'm going to pause in person momentarily so we can allow folks on Zoom to also speak. I believe Rebecca had some comments or questions.
Hi there,
Is
can
Rebecca-
you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you so much. I just want to thank the community board, first of all, for pulling this together. It seems incredibly thoughtful. I live on Troutman, and for those who are not close to Troutman might not understand the persistent nightmare that we are dealing with the proliferation of nightlife venues that are creating a lot of strife for myself and my neighbors. So first of all, I really appreciate this. It seems like you've really listened to the community and are looking for ways to address this. I'm curious to hear, it seems like the reason that you had to pull this together in the first place is because of the existing issues with existing businesses and nightlife venues that have caused these issues. It sounds like these recommendations would apply to any place that's opening going forward. And I'm curious to hear if there's any plan not to apply this retroactively, but perhaps to try to, engage the existing venues so that they might also abide by some of these recommendations. Thank you.
Thanks for the question. I think that's a great suggestion. I don't know operationally exactly how we would do it. But when folks come to apply for an application, they get a packet of materials and they're really on their best behavior, let's just say, when they're coming before us. So that's a really good time to kind of, talk about these things and get a good faith sort of commitment to stuff. It's harder to reach them afterwards. As other people have mentioned, oftentimes the renewal process for liquor licenses is really pretty much rubber stamped. We've been a little bit more proactively responding to that, just issuing some recommendations when we see problematic businesses coming up for renewal, even though it's not something that's, we've been told is really taken into account, but we've been going out of our way to add recommendations to that. Maybe Celeste has ideas on how we can do that.
I was just going to emphasize the things that have been discussed in committee. So this is all preliminary, nothing's been finalized, but activations. So for example, we've talked about nightlife ambassadors more than a few times, doing targeted city outreach, so partnering with agencies that can come out. This is both from a safety perspective, a health perspective. It's really about consideration. There have been folks that also live in the area that have reached out to the board to see how can I help, like what can I do? Like I know we're a part of this community. I spoke to a business owner about a month ago who was concerned about safety, and I encouraged them to connect with some of the residents that have been dealing with the nightlife impact. So I think that there are natural opportunities there. It's really up to the board and the community to see what's most important, how we move forward.
And just to respond to the also the NYPD enforcement, I'll just say that they have instituted the Q teams, which have been very helpful. I know, again, not perfect, but a lot of folks from that area have mentioned that they've made use of this, and it's been really helpful to them. I think that there are probably some 311 best practices as well, in terms of, I had offered myself many times to the person who had come last year to do a study about the 311 system. He never took me up on it, but I have a lot of thoughts. There's many ways that it could be improved, but I have heard that including your contact information, which many people don't want to do because they are acutely aware of the fact that they are part of this community. They don't want bad blood with their neighbors. It's, the excuses that I hear are like, oh, they're jealous of their successful bar, and that's just not been. That seems unfounded to me. That's just not been my experience. So I do think that I've heard that putting your contact information does help NYPD, track things down or follow up with you in ways that they wouldn't, and frankly, probably take it a little bit more seriously than if there is no name in there. So that is probably a good best practice. But I definitely think that the 311 system itself is a little bit faulty, and it pains me deep in my heart to hear that complaints are unfounded, because I believe that people are not going out of their way to complain about these things. So even if it's 8 hours later or 6 hours later and everyone's gone to sleep since then, I really think most of these are very much founded. So it's a good message for people to include their contact information.
I mean, I just have one point to add to that I forgot. Another thing that we have issues with too is that sometimes people tell, like, the perspective is that, like, you moved into this neighborhood, you should have known what you were getting into, but this neighborhood was not like this 5-10 years ago, actually. So I don't know where they're getting that from, but I would like to have a lot more support in pushing back against that narrative. But to the 311 point, like, I personally, like 2-3 weeks ago during the Bushwick Collective, celebration block party, I submitted quite a few 311 complaints. I left my information. No one reached out to me. I'd encourage people to still do it, but maybe someone tried to call me 3, 4, 5 days after the fact, and it took a crazy amount of hours for things to get resolved. I also have video footage of some people just standing around not doing nothing while there were, like, active violations happening way past ordinance hours. So there really is an issue when someone submits a 301, goes out of the way to do it, and it comes up as unfounded. And the comment has changed to there's no criminal activity, and the situation was either resolved or, like, there was nothing there to be resolved. So, like, it doesn't even let you know what happens. So when you do go to SLA and complain that, like, there's significant 301 complaints or whatever, the first thing that people say is, well, there's, like, all these cases have been closed or most of these are unfounded. And when we even speak to the NYPD on our calls, they'll let us know that, like, yeah, we have this many complaints, but all of them are founded. Most of them aren't founded. And it's just, it really is ridiculous. It's not true. So we just need a little more support on that end as well.
Thank you.
Hi, Courtney, Community Board 4, Courtney Henley. I have to agree. I feel like the law needs to be changed again, as soon as it became a community affairs at the police station, they don't do anything. Even if you give your name, the cops come. By that time, by the time they get there, if they even come at all, the person has already turned down the sound. Secondly, they'll say it's unfounded. If they can't get into the building, they don't do anything. You know, we need better support from the police department. We need the law changed back to where they're handling it instead of 311. A 311 complaint doesn't do anything for noise by the time they're seeing to it. Secondly, you know, people don't want to necessarily give their names against their, if it's right next door to them or something, because the people are then aware of who filed the complaint. You could be threatened, things could happen, and again, nothing gets done anyway.
Thank you.
Hi, Jason Gers, Community Board 4. I wonder if there are other agencies, city agencies, that play an enforcement role that might be able to support us in this situation, because I agree that NYPD often does not investigate or respond properly to things in 311 complaints that are there that they didn't show up or they didn't do anything about it. So that's the question.
There are a couple of things in addition to 311 and NYPD. There's the Office of Nightlife, which is in small business services. It's really geared more towards the businesses and less towards residents. But they have a cure, what they call a cure or amend mediation program that helps businesses and residents kind of hopefully repair the situation. I know that NYPD has said that there's a 100% success rate. This hasn't been our experience. I don't know of too many cases of it, but that is a tool or resource that's available. It's basically a mediation service. And the other one I was going to mention is that people have had a lot more success going straight to the OCM or the SLA for specific complaints. The SLA seems to take those complaints much, much more seriously. It's much more thorough. You have to fill out a lot of information and include photos and documentation and stuff. But in our experience, that is much, much more helpful and enforced, and actually they look into it. I will say also, just because I didn't mention OCM at all tonight, the Office of Cannabis Management, but another one of the complaints that we've heard a lot is sort of like that interaction between all of the food trucks and the unregulated cannabis trucks, which were shut down at some point, but pop back up the next day. In general, we've had a bit more success with the Office of Cannabis Management, maybe because they don't have the kind of volume that the State Liquor Authority has at the moment. But these are also permits and licenses that we're kind of like trying to think about how they all interact and how to help them be better neighborhood partners.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. My name is Sophia Matheny. I'm a Community Board 4 resident. I know earlier in the presentation you mentioned that Pacha made some commitments to the community, so I was just wondering what those commitments were and how how we're planning to hold them accountable to the commitments that they made. Thank you.
Yeah, it's actually kind of a long list. It's been a very, very long process. They've been very proactive and communicative about trying to think of strategies. They will have their own infirmary on site. They're going to have their own cleanup services after the fact. They have a lot of security. They have committed to putting decibel meters in nearby residents' houses. We've yet to see them make good on that, but that is something they've committed to. The SLA, in fact, we had quite a few people from the community show up at the SLA, which is pretty, that's the first time in my life. Maybe it's happened one other time with a building near Ann, where people have actually gone to the hearings at the SLA, and I think that was noticed. I think they noticed that, and they asked the business to commit to including nearby residents in these discussions. They didn't. Luckily, we were there to sort of help connect those links. But Yeah, they have a scaled back concert scheduled this summer, so we'll meet again in the fall and we'll see how it went. But they're supposed to be operating at lower capacity because the previous venue was very much oversold. Apparently, they think that that's part of the problem. The sound commitments, and what I was actually referring to earlier was that they committed a lot of funds to the community boards. I think, Celeste, I can mention the amounts, right? I think it was, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, it was 10 million over 10 years?
I don't remember off the top of my head.
I think it comes, yes? Someone said yes? Yes. And it was to be split between CB1 and CB4, so it basically comes out to about 150K per year per community board. So, it's not a ton, but it's definitely something, and we're hoping that that can be used to, directly address, not be used for something else, but to be used to address the actual problems that are impacting the neighborhood. I think there's a rather complicated process of how those funds get dispersed, but.
It doesn't come to CB4, it comes to the community-based organizations that they include us, so we don't get that. So just please, the CB4 do not get that money.
The funds will be used within the district. It won't be coming to the agency or the board.
Correct. We have two more, then we're gonna close this off.
Mike Varley, CB4. This is more a comment than a question, but it's never going to be more relevant than right now in this time, so I wanted to bring it up. I think we've all experienced the New York Knicks the past couple weeks and how wonderful an enthusiastic experience that's been, depending on your, that's right, depending on your media feed, you might have been seeing a ton of people singing New York, New York, or you might have seen large-scale vandalism and fights and whatnot. And I think that's a macrocosm of what we're experiencing here every weekend, which is to say there's a lot of amazing potential for bringing people together, but there's also a lot of potential for really terrible things, Human enthusiasm is a natural resource, it's like gas. It can drive your car, it can burn your house down. And right now we're hearing a lot of people that are feeling the pain of that, and I think for this group, advocacy on their behalf is like our principal responsibility. And seeing the things that we saw on the list there, I think the reason folks were immediately silent was because of how thorough it was. It's really great and such a tremendous stepping stone for us to build forward. But in addition to again the goal one of making people heard that are in these ground zero areas, also intermediate and long term thinking about how we can use this energy. That's the Knicks is a hurricane. It's passing through. 2 weeks from now, it'll be gone. But this is something that happens every weekend in our neighborhood. It might be 1 or 2% of that enthusiasm, but it's happening constantly. And how can we channel that energy, like through a generator, to bring real value to our community? So that's all I want to say.
Hey, good evening. Ben Tucker, CB4 member. So I want to start by commending Christine for the work to make this very comprehensive presentation. I want to offer a suggestion for the board as we think about sort of bigger picture and legislative and things we can encourage our electeds to help us with. Just sort of related to what Mr. Ceballos is saying is if it's the only business that you can start that's going to make you money and offer you any amount of stability is a bar, then you're going to open a bar. And so what we need to do is look to legislation that would make it safer and less risky for small business owners to open and maintain businesses. And so, we have various degrees of rent protections for renters here in the city, and that helps folks not have to worry as much about their housing situation. We don't really have that commercially, and that is why we have a lot of turnover. It's very risky to start and run a New York City business. And then if the only profitable business to start in a vacant space is a bar, you're going to get a lot more bars. So whatever we can do to think bigger picture to help small business owners stay in their space, open their businesses, and stay in their businesses and not have landlords preying on them would help us to not have this acceleration towards new bars opening. Thanks.
Yeah.
I'll close out a comment with that. Thank you so much for bringing that up, and I think that's huge. I mean, I know the concept of rent-regulated, commercial rent regulation has come up in the past, but it is really sad to just see our manufacturing businesses leave and go straight to uber profitable nightlife. There's also a form of mini blight in the Jefferson L area where landlords are waiting for that golden ticket. So they don't want to rent to mom and pops. All the mom and pops left during COVID, and they created this glut where nightlife came in, and now other types of diverse businesses cannot afford to do business. And landlords are waiting for, we had on the corner of, on the extreme edge of Flushing and Wyckoff, we had that commercial building vacant for years and years and years and years and years. And they were waiting for their golden ticket, and they got it. It's Whole Foods. So, I mean, that's the only other option is some sort of very large corporate, national corporate entity. So I don't know if there's any sort of discussion about these kinds of things. I know this has been mentioned with Senator Salazar before in the past. I don't know if anything has ever come of that. But, yeah, it breaks my heart to see. I walk past some of the old manufacturing businesses. I know that, the market conditions have changed. But I think, okay, how much longer do these poor folks have, before?
I know CB4 also, Angani and ourselves, we were saying that the manufacturer was jobs. My dad worked in the manufacturer off of Lexington and Broadway right here on Best Eye. He worked the Timex watches, and that's how he made a living. Also, Broadway had been fixed since 1977. We had bakeries, we had everything there, and the only thing that goes now for $40,000 to $20,000 a month is a Wii Spot or liquor store, because people get on the train and go there. Nobody wants to go to a bakery, and then we have $20,000 coffee shops. So Broadway hasn't been fixed. Knickerbocker, you see, and it's going down the same way. All those stores are switching and changing. On Stanhope, there used to be the sneaker store is gone. They got a bar there now. It's moving over. On DeKalb, you got that weed spot there opening up. So Bishop could only get weed spots and alcohol, all right? So we went through that in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. So we have to, people don't want to come here and buy. We have to do groceries or try to get someone. Stores, sneaker stores, we had them before. Now, no one comes on the train and gets on. If you go in the night on Broadway, 1, 2 in the morning, it's dead. Completely, unless it's a nightlife activity. And you can have the inspector here themselves with the sector car and the nightlife, and I can tell you off of Murder on Broadway how it goes from there to there. Once you hit Murder on Broadway and you come by Kosciuszko, it's dead. Gates is dead. Halsey is dead. So I know for a fact, and we really have to tell people and speak to these landlords that do have those establishments to bring CBOs or things into there that people can do instead of just alcohol and cannabis shops. So.
If I may just add to that briefly, we often talk about the challenges with businesses in the neighborhood and the fact that, this is an economic development committee conversation often. I see this as an opportunity, right, to get creative, or at least for the board to present what the community wants to see in the neighborhood. Also touching on the industrial manufacturing businesses piece, a few months ago, I spoke with Councilmember Nurse. It's very preliminary, nothing has been set yet, but we had a meeting last summer. For anyone that was interested in coming, it was a stakeholder meeting where we talked about what the state of housing, development of affordable housing is. I suggested that if there's interest and support from the board, we could have a conversation about the reality of industrial space and business. The businesses of the past likely aren't coming back, but what can we realistically have here in the present? I think it's really important for the board to set the tone, especially now. And the intention is to focus on all of the industrial space, but particularly the areas that maybe aren't as populated already. So that way we don't see those all of a sudden shifting the same way parts have already.
Mm-hmm. Great. Thank you so much, Les. The one last point I'll make is that just because I think it's important, oftentimes the excuse that we hear is, the nightlife venues are producing jobs. So for me, that just kind of came in sharp focus when we were talking about the manufacturing stuff as well as the nightlife. there are people who do have jobs already. If we can help protect them, that's one way of preserving jobs. A lot of the nightlife jobs, you know, the industry fights quite hard against increasing the minimum wage. A lot of these jobs are transient. A lot of the jobs, even with Pacha, I think that's part of how they were able to seduce the community boards, is they said, you know, we're going to hire 1,000 security guards or something, many of whom are not from the neighborhood. But I would just like to say maybe we can think about alternate ways of creating and supporting diverse types of jobs. And, you know, I would also argue, I don't have kids, but families who are struggling offer another, you know, they also have jobs and are contributing to the economy and also to the character of the neighborhood. And if they can't raise their kids and sleep at night and go to school and go to work, that we're also losing something else. It's not just purely about, you know, how many contract laborers have we hired for the day in this particular venue. So I don't know what the answer is, but I hope that we can think about that in another way.
Thank you. Thank you. This closes the public hearing item. It is 7:18. Oh, we have our State Assembly, Eric DeLong.
Thank you, Mr. Camacho. And just briefly, I'm here today at the strong insistence of this man, and I'll start by saying I've stayed away from this board for a good while because him and I have very, very, very strong differences of opinions that we have not been able to resolve until recently. So out of respect to him, I've stayed away from this venue to have this venue be his and work with him and have him work with you on that. But what I will say, we'll keep this today strictly governmental. I think everybody knows what's going on in the neighborhood, and we have, you know, 2 people who are aspiring for things here, but we'll keep it, you know, strictly governmental. And what I'll do is give a brief report of some of the things that we've done this session up in Albany. When we went back to session, you know, immediately we had to deal with some of the adverse impacts of HR 1 and the Trump administration and the things and problems and issues that they have put on the state of New York. Most importantly, first and foremost would be healthcare and the things that happen with Medicaid and the shortfalls that left our hospitals and specifically our hospitals like Wyckoff and Woodhall, which is city. Those hospitals who take care of the undocumented and the uninsured have larger shortfalls than the ones who get better private insurance. So we immediately had to work on a robust distressed hospital fund, which we were able to accomplish in this year's state budget. Now, obviously, a state can never recover from the amount of funding that the federal government provides when it provides a funding cut, but we did the best we can on things like the essential plan and the distressed hospital fund to keep our hospitals vibrant, afloat, and safe. We had to do similar things in January on HR 1 as it relates to the federal cuts to SNAP, which, you know, it's really disturbing and distressful that, you know, someone can, well, that people, I shouldn't say someone because one person didn't do it, it was a group of people, that can, you know, basically cut vibrant funding for the poor and for people who rely on SNAP, and this community so greatly relies on SNAP, so it was vital that we passed that battle. And we did that to a degree. Recently in the state budget, which was lengthy and consumed a lot of the legislature's time, and it got passed very late in the session, you know, we have, you know, some global wins, which I believe are impactful. You know, some of those are, you know, getting versions of New York for All into the state budget, and I think people, at least in this neighborhood, along all ideological lines, thought that that was important and something that should be done. We got that accomplished. And then there were also discussions and debates about what to do versus vis-a-vis auto insurance, which the governor injected into the budget. I think that was a very, very complex matter to throw into the budget that should have had formal oversight hearing and formal oversight review by the respective insurance committees in the state legislature. Unfortunately, that got injected into the budget and passed. That's a bill that, had a lot of consternation, and we'll see what happens if it actually provides savings for New Yorkers. I sit on the insurance committee. It's something that I chose when I first got to the legislature to try to save folks money on their auto and property and casualty insurance. So we will see what comes out of this. I think the danger is you had two powerful interests there competing. It would be the insurance industry and then the trial lawyer industries. And I guess the hard part to figure out and determine was which way to go that would best impact people and best cause a reduction in premiums while still protecting people who are truly, truly injured and truly deserve recourse should they get injured in an accident. Some local budget wins. I think most people may know that we got a $3 million capital grant to completely renovate the Hope Gardens Youth Center. Some of the other ones you may not know was another $3 million for Heckscher Park, which will improve lighting and surfacing within Heckscher Park. And then in addition to that, capital in several of the schools, some capital fund for not-for-profit housing, which has older housing stock that is in disrepair. We provided a small amount of capital funds that is targeted towards buildings, but I think the broader and futuristic approach is to work with citywide non-for-profit housing agencies to create a pool of capital funds that not-for-profits can access to do repairs and renovations in older affordable housing stock so that these buildings can continue to be affordable but livable for the people who reside in them. On the expense side, we've funded several after-school programs in the neighborhood, some that have been cut or lost programmatic funding through the Adams administration, particularly one at 151 that is about $500,000 in funding to restore their after-school programs there. And in addition to that, leaving the budget aside a second, legislatively, I've got about 3 bills that I worked with Senator Salazar on this session. One has passed and has the governor's signature. That is the prison omnibus bill after the murder of Robert Brooks in Marcy Correctional Facility last year. And it was something that, if folks know the history between myself and Senator Salazar, kind of brought us together governmentally to work on that and to get that passed to provide vital oversight of the New York State correction system, as well as funding for independent groups like the Correctional Association of New York and bolstering the New York State Commission on Corrections to continue to provide independent oversight of the New York State's correction system. Other pieces of legislation on immunizations, I think, I shouldn't say I think, the Trump administration and its current Commission of Health and Human Services is looking to roll back some protections on immunizations. And what we did was say, hey, regardless of your view on immunizations, should the federal government roll these back, New York State insurance companies are required to pay for them should one choose to get basic immunizations that may be rolled back by the Trump administration. So in a brief and quick nutshell, that was my 2025-2026 legislative session. And at the insistence of this man who definitely urged me to come here tonight, that is my brief and quick report.
Any questions?
I I have a question. So this is just summarizing conversations that have come up in housing and land use in reference to affordable buildings who have reached a point where they can no longer sustain and they have a lot of repairs. Have there been any discussion of allowing buildings to be able to sustain themselves through cross-subsidization that you're aware of?
Cross-subsidization, not that I'm aware of, not at the state level. I mean, once upon a time I was the housing chair, but that was in New York City. So if those discussions are going on, I'm not a part of them. And what I would say that I left out is there was also appropriation in the state budget for $2.2 billion for child care and universal child care. That is greatly important. That money got awarded to the city of New York. And I'm in discussions with the Mandami administration to attempt to get Audrey Johnson Daycare Center reopened with that money. Well, and I would say in discussions, there's no commitment, but it's something that I'm fighting for, and if this board wants to fight for it, that would be the prerogative of this board, but certainly, you know, community support for the reopening of a child care while the state is providing $2 billion to the city. Well, not the $2 billion is statewide. Not all $2 billion is going to the city. But of the $2 billion, there's at least $110 million in capital funds for daycares that need to be renovated. And there's certainly enough in there for Audrey Johnson to be renovated. That is privately held. That building, so there will need to be discussions with the landlord, and there will need to be a commitment from the Mandami administration to do it. I think most people don't know this, but last September, I brought Mayor Mandami to Audrey Johnson Daycare Center, asked him to take a look at it, also brought him to John Coker Daycare Center, which is city-owned, and asked him to take a look at it. And I told him that if you did anything for me, these would be the two things that I want you to do. So he is aware of it. So now we just got to continue to fight to get him to point that money into the direction of those two locations.
Thank you. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that ACE Integration Head Start, I do not recall which side of the district it's on, but they are also struggling, and they recently reached, yeah, so.
Robert has put me on that.
Great.
Frank sent a letter, so I brought it to his attention in regards to that. So they're sitting down with them. They're also a GoFundMe page. They've been there for 40 years. 40 years. And their money has been depleted, and no one's giving any of them. They've been taking money out of their pockets to do the kid things, school. Any other?
Hi, Zachary Hendrickson, Community Board 4 member. I just wanted to make sure that I understood sort of the situation. I've been living in Bushwick for about 7 years now, which is not nearly as long as many of the people in this room. I know that. But I have been a community board member for the last 3. And I've never seen you at one of these meetings. And so I just want to understand, I want to understand correctly that, am I to understand that a personal disagreement between yourself and our elected chairperson is the reason why you've stayed away this entire time? Because Mr. Camacho and I disagree all the time. I think everybody in this room knows that. But I'm still able to show up as a volunteer every month to these meetings. So I just want to understand directly.
I would say that's my reason. But also, we're required to be in Albany for 6 months out of the year. And there's many days where this board meeting happens where I'm required to be in session, and I'm required to vote, and I'm required to vote on things and matters of this community. Now, that being said, in that time, my staff has certainly been here. One of my former staff members is here. They've been here all the time. I've been in contact with some of the members of this board, and we've worked with them. But yes, did I have such a deep and personal disagreement with this man that was at that point? I did, right? And I'll be honest about it. It's not a slight on anyone here. But in order for this board and for this forum to be spared of that, I chose to personally stay away.
I'd like to introduce you to Zoom because we've had many other elected officials Zoom in.
Sure, it's been.
I'd be happy to get you set up on an account and we can get that right away. Thank you so much for being here.
I have all that stuff. I have all of it.
A big thank you to Zach for that. I also I find it kind of inappropriate to see you here. My name is Gio Justiniano, CB4 member. I've also been here for a little over 2 years, and I just feel like it might be a little inappropriate to see you suddenly, even though Camacho asked you to come a week before an election when we haven't seen your presence here. We haven't seen your staff here because there's always a roll call for all of our elected officials, and every elected official other than your office has presence here in every board meeting. Also, I do want to say, to Zach's point, is that we do, real quick, we do disagree sometimes with Camacho, but we still have to, we shake hands and we have conversations, and we don't disagree on everything, and we agree on a lot of other things. When you're up in Albany, there's a lot of people you disagree with and you have to be working with. There's community, know your face and doesn't know your presence of.
Yes, Courtney, Community Board 4, I have to reiterate that. I don't know who you are. And I've been in this neighborhood for 12, 13 years. I also want to know, was anything done in the budget for the elderly? I have people that are getting to be, say, like 65 years old. These rents are so crazy. They're no longer working. They can't get jobs because of ageism. And one of them is getting ready to be homeless. So I wondered, is there anything in the budget that's addressing the elderly, because we're getting an elderly population in New York City that really can't afford these rents unless we're working, and we're all living paycheck to paycheck.
So there was an increase in scree and dree levels. While that helps, it's insufficient. I think the real problem as it relates to elderly housing is the federal government's position several years ago to walk away from federal 202 housing. For those who have been in Bushwick a long time, Bushwick probably had more federal 202 properties than any other community. The last federal 202 was built in 2014 in my district, and that really helped from a federal level to build housing for seniors. More recently, some of the city council's policies and the city policies have helped, but on a state and federal level, it's really the tax policy and the federal 202 programs that the federal government walked away. And I know that there is also things going on at the federal level. And, you know, I hope and pray that some of those people who are aspiring to replace our federal representative push the federal government to get back into the business of building senior housing via the federal 202 program.
My name is Pablo Rivera, Community Board 4. I don't know if you guys know me. Anybody knows me here? Everybody knows me here? So I don't get, because I know people sometimes, we work hard. And this is, you know, this time of the day, we are tired. But right up to last year, I was the community liaison for Assemblyman Eric DeLan, right? And every night, every month, I presented myself as such here, because I didn't miss a meeting. And then on top of that, then I became a Community Board 4 member for the second time. I've had the pleasure, maybe I'm a little biased because I know you, 32 years? I met you as a young man. I worked with your father a lot here. Thank you for renovating this ball field. If you guys don't know, Hope ball field 3 times, right? Senior centers, we worked on senior center when only there was one here, the one on Stanhope, with Vito Lopez. May he rest in peace, right? There was only one. And the Vito Lopez, the DeLong, Martin, later you, have been instrumental here. Now, if we're going to talk about who's not here and who not works here, see, I don't work for him now, so I could say it. But I've seen Senator Salazar here once. Here, once. Once. Since I've been here, coming back once. Assemblywoman Marisa Davila, she's here all the time. And if she's not here, she's on Zoom. right? Councilwoman Sandy Nurse. She's here all the time, but she works here. So she better be here all the time, right? Because she works here. I want to praise you for everything because I know you lived here. You didn't come here 8 years, 9 years ago. You lived here, born and raised here in Bushwick. Bushwick was burned down when that ball field was not a ball field, and we renovated and we made it what it is now, okay? We've seen, thank you for the discretionary funds that came into round table. I think it was 250,000. Our youth center is going to be renovated. There's 1.5 million that came to 384. The school to renovate, I believe, is the principal told me. You didn't tell me, the principal told me. Yeah, it would be nice to see you more, but you also have 3 kids, one going out to college now. It's very hard, you work in Albany, but we do thank you. We do thank you. A lot of us thank you, okay?
Listen, and I truly don't want to make this about what's happening next week. You know, I had the chance to meet Christian. My first impression is that I think he's a nice guy. But it's really, I'm really here at the assistance of this man and trying to repair the relationship. And I would say the criticism that comes my way is deserved. And I'll accept it, and I'll take that on the chin. And if it, you know, if it has to be vented and expressed, you know, I have to accept that. But instead of beating around the bush and saying what the reason was, it's easy for me to say, oh, I got to be in Albany all the time. And I just give you the honest truth and just let you guys deal with it in the way that you choose to deal with it.
I got one person, then I'm going to make a last comment in regards to our assemblyman.
Hi there, my name is Red Kadetsky, CB4 Community Board Member. First off, I would be remiss to not mention this, but happy Pride to those who identify, those who perhaps do not know, will know, maybe are questioning, but just want to say that to the room, which has to do with my question that I will be directing to you shortly. So in this recent budget passing that has happened in Albany, one thing that I have noticed as a trans person, as a queer person who is part of the community, who's part of a growing community of queer and trans people who live, work, sorry folks, go out to nightlife in Bushwick. We are a growing and robust part of the community here and across New York City, and more I see my community flocking here across the United States due to the scapegoating of trans people, scapegoating of queer people, particularly trans youth, particularly Black POC trans youth not being able to access health care, not being able to access services, facing more and more erasure in our society, in our community, in the United States. My question to you is, what is Albany doing, especially considering the federal guidelines that are coming out to limit gender-affirming care for youth, which will invariably and will certainly be, and has already impacted me, affecting trans adults, queer adults, and their healthcare access. What is Albany doing in order to ensure the safety and also the, what's the word, not surviving, thriving of the LGBTQ community in New York City?
So I would say for a long time, the state assembly, and more recently the state senate, when it flipped from Democrat to Republican several years ago, state assembly for years has passed a lot of bills on gender affirmation, including and it doesn't get unanimous support in the assembly, but including the non-consent of parents, which, you know, some people don't necessarily agree with, but it does pass. You know, since the Senate has taken over, the Senate has followed the lead, and I think New York has been a leader in this area in this regard. You know, I've been working alongside, well, I can't say I've been at the forefront, but working alongside people in this area for a long time, having served under Christine Quinn and Gifford Miller back at my time in the city council, not necessarily on gender affirming issues, but just in issues involving the LGBTQ, and just from a holistic perspective to make their lives better and make them feel welcome in the state and city of New York.
All right, thank you.
To myself and Celeste, we meet with all the elected officials every year. I meet with him every year. He may not come here, but we give him our every time we make recommendations or anything comes up, I meet with him. Nothing personal, it's business. As usual, no matter what elected official it is, regardless, I'm the chair, and I work with all of them. I submit our proposals, we meet with them on the budget consultation, we meet with them all the time. I meet with him all the time. Personal issues before, I told him he needs to come and visit the people. I said, I know he wanted to come before a couple of times ago. I said, well, myself and Celeste also, we met with him and we talked about also affordable housing in some of the areas that we had ourselves planned and some of the locations we had that we wanted to sit down with him and get his thoughts in regards to some of the issues that were going on. He promised, he said he wasn't, at that time last year, he said he wasn't going to commit to anything, but then he came through with Canadian Hope Gardens in regards to that funding. And I know myself and Celeste said, we're going to fix the youth center, but let's think out the box in regards to housing on top of the center to subsidize. So I'm speaking with our council, with all of them in regards to if they're going to fix that center, that kind of money, why not create affordable housing on top of it where we can use the air rights and the space that's there to bring our people back home. So I was thinking out the box because it's easy for our families to go to shelters, but it's hard for them to get an apartment here and can't afford to live here. So he guaranteed that. Now myself and Celeste, will speak to our council to see if they will chip in any money before they start building, because it's not worth knocking something down to try to add later on when it can be done right there and do the affordable housing on top, think out the box and fix the whole gym for our youth and our kids in Hope Garden and utilize it, because only through DYCD, through their contract that they have, they're supposed to be 39% of the people using that from NYCHA. And they aren't because of some of the funding and some of the things. So thank you. I got Celeste.
We have another elected official with us this evening. So Councilmember Nurse is on Zoom, but I want to make sure we are concluded. Thank you, Assemblymember DeLon, for being here, and we will welcome Councilmember Nurse. Welcome.
Hey, good evening. Can you hear me?
And
okay. So, well, it's great to see the assembly member here. I've never seen it happen, but I just want to express that what I just listened to sounded so clearly like campaigning here. Like the board is creating a political moment here, and I'm a little disappointed because when it came to dealing with the flooding on Knickerbocker or dealing with other issues here, never seen you. Never seen you. And by the way, I've had multiple disagreements with board members and the chair before, and we've had moments, and I still show up. Just because you don't need an invitation to show up. If you're in a beef with someone, that's your personal beef with someone. That doesn't create an excuse to show up and be in front of community. So I just had to say that seeing this makes me extremely disappointed. I'm a little disgusted at the way this is going down. And, I just think there's a big issue with this. And I'm really disappointed because people want to show up at the last minute, a few days before an election. I think that's really cynical. That's all I have to say. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
Thank you, Councilmember. And I trust that everyone here is capable of making an informed choice for being here, and you're able to speak with your neighbors about your choices. So the board here it's neutral, it is apolitical, although we are certainly within the eye of the storm, as I always say. So we are susceptible. But I just want to make sure that folks know, at the end of the day, we're here to do a job. We expect everyone else to do their job and to keep it professional and respectful, and we appreciate you all for doing that when you come to this space.
That ending, we will go to the regular agenda. First roll call.
Isa Abni, Paula Almanzar, George Benjamin, Deborah Hicks.
Here.
I saw you on Zoom. Gotcha, okay. Lateef Bunting, Robert Camacho,
Present.
Felix Ceballos, Andrew Choi, Kimberly Colclough. Did I say your last name correctly? Okay, great, thank you. Esteban Duran, Alan Gamboa, Jason Gares, Christopher Graham, Thomas Green, Ann Guiney, Nima Hawk, Zachary Hendrickson, Courtney Henley, Barbara Jackson, Fergie Jones, Tara Jones-Thomas, Luisa Jose, Giovanni Justiniano, Red Kadetsky, Nancy Keith, Frederice Latchman, Cindy LeBron is excused, Christine Malden, Zuma Navoa, Cirilo Nunez, Sherry Richardson, Pablo Rivera. Pablo? Okay, you may come back. Raul Rubio, Eliseo Ruiz, got you. Josue Salazar, Milagro Sandoval, Eunice Santiago, Juan Cerati, Annette Spellin, B. Spiederman, John Stanetsko, James Stewart, Christian Tate, Ben Tucker, Crystal Vargas, Michael Varley, Yefim Verdernikov, Linda Whitfield, Joanne Wu is excused. I got you, Pablo. What? 44 board members are present. Congratulations, all. It's the most we've had this year. All right. If you did not sign in and you said you're here, please sign in. Otherwise, I have to indicate. And all elected official representatives or elected officials, please sign as well. So that way we have a record. Acceptance of the agenda. Motion? Courtney made a motion. Second by who's aye? Oh, Esteban. Thank you. Okay. Esteban seconds. All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carried. Item number 3, acceptance of the previous meeting minutes. Is there a motion? Annette Spellin made the motion. Nancy seconds. Just shout a name, folks. All right, Nancy seconds. All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carried. And the 83rd Precinct report, we're going to welcome Deputy Inspector Maffey. And if I will just say, tonight is our spring potluck. I would like to encourage everyone to summarize. I will defer to the board if you want to hear a longer version of any comments, but I imagine that folks would like a summary. Can I get some heads nodding? Yes, no? Okay, I see. Okay. Just want to make sure we're on the same page. Welcome, Deputy Inspector.
Good evening, everyone. Deputy Inspector Maffey, 83rd Precinct Commanding Officer. I see the crowd's been warmed up, so we'll get this going. I'll try to be quick. First, I'll start with an update from last time we met. The only homework we were given was the usual, which is truck routes. So since we've last met, the 83rd Precinct participated in 2 operations regarding truck-off routes, focusing on Bushwick and then other corridors. During those 2 operations, we made 2 arrests. We issued 45 summonses. If we kick over to the crime report, we're really close to where we were last year regarding crimes. What I'm seeing with the crimes is, as far as our robberies go, I'm seeing an increase in shoplifting gone wrong robberies. That's exactly what it means. Someone anticipates or chooses to shoplift something, maybe a pack of gum or a sweater. That then turns into a robbery based on physical action or verbal threats. So a robbery is the removal of property through force or threat of force. So removing a pack of gum and on the way out saying, don't touch me or I'll kill you, now it becomes a robbery, right? So I'm seeing an increase in that. We are seeing the same individual committing that act. So we're going to make a pattern regarding that. A tool that that the businesses have, if they're not aware, is the trespass affidavit program. I kind of ran that pilot program when I was in the 84th precinct. So what that is as a business owner, you have the right to remove people from your store, and they are no longer welcome at your store. The best way to do that is to serve them with a trespass affidavit. So what is that? That says if you return to my store, and once you walk inside, you are guilty of trespassing. If you commit a crime inside my store, if you take that packet of gum, that turns into a burglary, all right? It's very difficult for the DAs and the judges to ignore burglary charges. They actually can't. We can actually ask for bail for that. So for the repeat, chronic, everyday person coming into that store, it's a great tool. It helps out the businesses. I've seen it been extremely successful at the other stores I've worked at in other precincts. Our assaults are driven by domestic violence, which is increased by 45%. Of those domestic violence assaults, we do have 81% of them have arrests with them. Our shootings are down for the year, 71%. 71% down. Our gun arrests are up for the year by 31%, and we just made one on Sunday, and we just made one last night. The biggest increased crime I'm seeing, and it's only 10 more. Now, one more is too many, right? But this just happens to have 10, is grand larcenies, and what's driving that is our scams. I've spoke about our scams before. The apartment scam, if you see apartment advertised on TikTok, $1,900, send me some money. That person disappears, you lost $1,900, all right? Other than that, accounts being hacked and then granting people access to your account, something you want to try to avoid. Hang up the phone, go direct to the banking institution if you can. And I'm very confident in telling everyone here that no one's going to call you and tell you that you won the lottery. If they say that, they're lying to you, especially if you didn't play the lottery. And if you won the lottery, then why would you send someone else money, right? You should be getting the money. So I've seen that 3 times in the last month. You won the lottery, congratulations. We have to send you a check. You have to send me $500 for it, right? So if no one's winning the lottery over the phone, period, end of story, all right? Just hang up, all right? I'll pivot over to some of the events we did since we last met. Bushwick Collective took place, the 15th year. Thought it was a very good event. I was there. Just this past Saturday, we had a street renaming of Barbara Smith. I was very, everybody knows who Barbara Smith is. I unfortunately never got to meet her, but I could tell you from attending the event, it was extremely personal. It was extremely neighborhood oriented. The family was there. A lot of family members were there. A lot of community members were there. It felt very different. Most of the street namings I attended for officers, this was very different. This felt more personal. It was very, very special for me to attend. And if anyone wasn't aware, the Puerto Rican parade was just this Sunday. So regarding that parade, we did take some violence. 1 person slashed, 5 people stabbed. At this point, there's no evidence to connect them all to each other. They're also all still open and ongoing, so I'm not going to discuss them at length. I will tell you that 3 arrests were made regarding those, and they're currently still under investigation. This Friday, we have a Cops and Kids event at the skating rink at Xanadu. There was a flyer. If anyone wants more information, Community Affairs can provide you with that. That's the 4th annual where cops and kids meet up and they go skating at the skating arena. Before I go to questions, just because of some topics mentioned before, I wrote some more notes. I'm just going to go to 311s real quick. All right. It's a city software program that the police department uses, okay? Some of these complaints that are lodged in 311 don't even come to PD, right? And I know that from being in the 84th, a lot of vending complaints on the Brooklyn Bridge never made its way to police department, Department of Health, Department of Sanitation, right? So you might make a 311, it might not even come to us, okay? I don't know why, maybe certain phrases or certain ways it's submitted, but some we don't receive. I can tell you up to June 1st, we've received 10,335 311 complaints, okay? About 54% of them are noise related and 39% are vehicle related. That includes parking, blocked driveways, and abandoned vehicles, or what appears to be an abandoned vehicle. Of the 10,335 311 complaints, 9 resulted in an arrest, and 1,444 resulted in a summons being issued, which is about 14%, okay? Just because we have 10,000 complaints does not mean they're real, right? Now, I read these complaints every single day. I get a daily report, okay? I read them every day. I can tell you in our top 10, so our most chronic, one of them is for laughing and talking. Police are not really going to get involved in people laughing and talking, okay? Which is also an anonymous complaint, chronic complaint. 211 times that's came over this year. Another one is for a permanent event. Again, that's a permit, so we really can't enforce that. Neighbors moving furniture. I'm very confident I'm not going to be able to address that. So just because the complaint is made doesn't mean it's real or justified. Okay, now the officers take every complaint as real and justified and investigate such. And just because it's anonymous doesn't mean it gets any less attention. Okay, these complaints go to patrol officers. Those are officers responding to 911 calls. Okay, they have to go to the 911 call first, and then they go to the 311 call. That's because of the priority. All right. They probably have 7 other 301s to go to and 5 other ones they go to you. So it's probably the worst unit you want handling your 311, which I'm going to explain later, okay? Just some of the finals. So the system only lets us do a drop-down box, and we submit police-issued department radio finals, okay? 96 means a summons was issued. 92 Charlie means an arrest was made. 91 non-crime corrected. A crime in my language is a misdemeanor or a felony. So if you're doing a noise complaint and the officers go and they have the person lowered or move, they're probably going to mark it a 91 because there was no misdemeanor, there was no felony, and they somewhat corrected the condition. So some of these finals I think are misleading. 90X is unfounded, 90Y is unnecessary, 90 Union is unable to get inside. Some of these locations we can't get in, we don't know the code, we can't get buzzed in. Some of them by the time when they do show up, we can't find it, and if we can't find it, then sometimes they'll mark it unnecessary, okay? I track the response times to the jobs. We do very, very well, but you're looking at about an hour. Now, some of them are completed in 10 minutes, but on average, we right now are about an hour. Now, we've been worse, we've been better. I'm just telling the last monthly period that I looked at. And this is what I recommend to everyone. You're giving your 311 to patrol. I highly recommend you try to build a relationship with the Q team officer because you can contact your Q team officer, text, email, hey, that car is back here playing music in front of my house. Here's a picture, right? You still should make the 311 complaint to document it in the system, but the Q team officers, they do go to 911 calls, but they go to less 911 calls. So they have the time to investigate and get into these issues. The 911 patrol officers do not. They're running around, okay? If anyone wants to meet and greet and know who the Q team officer is, you just contact Community Affairs. We'll give you their contact. That's where I see the most success with these 311s, okay? Some of these 311 problems you're not going to be able to arrest or summons your way out of, all right? Engineering or some type of other agency use. We do work with other agencies through Community Link. We do tow operations. We address Myrtle Wyckoff like that, the vendors, the food trucks. We're actually doing a business inspection on Jefferson later this month, all right, with other agencies. So the 311 starts the process, but if you're able to build that relationship with your Q team officer, that's only going to help the process. Not saying it's mandatory, but it's a better option. Lastly, before I open up to questions, Office of Nightlife has the MEN program. They say it's 100% effective. I don't know if it is or not. It's a different agency. However, I have heard of success where the MEN program, which is a mediation program where the person who's being bothered, the complainant, can speak with the Office of Nightlife. Office of Nightlife will talk with the establishment. They'll go inside. Sometimes just turning the speaker or unplugging one speaker or putting some type of canister around the bottom of the speaker actually fixes the problem. But everyone has to talk to each other in order to get that, okay? And if some people don't want to talk to police and you want to be anonymous, maybe you would want to speak with a non-police agency, the Office of Nightlife, with the MEN program, okay? With that, I will open up the questions. Thank you.
Courtney Henley, Community Board 4. How exactly do you create a relationship with the person, the community, the quality person, the community person that you're saying? How do you do it? Yeah, how do you create this relationship? Because your colleague said that she was going to deal with a noise issue I had, and I haven't heard from her in like 2 months.
So the easiest way to meet your Q officer, if you just reach out to Community Affairs, who just disappeared, she's probably getting food, they'll get the contact of the Q officer and give it to you, or they'll have the Q officer call you. They also attend every community council meeting in the precinct, which is the third Tuesday, and you can see them physically and introduce yourself, get their cards, and then text, email, phone call. That's generally how I see the best practice of it. Yeah.
Hi, Naima Hawk, CB4 member. I know we have our potluck, so I'll keep this short. I want to talk about two things. One, I'm really increasingly worried about the amount of fires that are happening in Bushwick. I've born and raised, lived here, witnessed a lot of these fires. Next door to me was a really massive fire that basically everyone had to leave, is now vacant. And then next door, the other side of me next door, recently there was a lot of smoke and a call, firefighters came, and it's because the people who had moved in there created a fire pit, and it just exploded into a lot of smoke. And I just want to know, what can we do about these fires? Because, as a person who lives here, I'm really worried about my house burning down or my neighbors being affected. And then two, regarding 311 calls, thank you for noting the quality people. I've been making 311 calls. Obviously, a lot of these, it's overwhelming. One problem I've been having, I wanted to reach out. What I can do is that there's a lot of street trees that are becoming excessively big and making it hard for people to walk, and I don't want that to become a complaint on our end as a homeowner. And so what can we do about it? I know, Zachary, you're on the Partnership for Parks team, so I would love to follow up. I know parks and street trees are different, but before, we take it into our own hands of pruning and getting, I don't know. Yeah, I just wanted to ask the police, since you're here, what I can do, because my 311 requests are not.
If you want, you can refer back to the office, or we can. They're not gonna, in regards to the tree trees, we can talk to one of the board members that are on there, but you can get the complaint to the office. PD has nothing to do with the trees. They only have to do with its quality of life issues. But if there's a specific complaint, speak to Celeste, or if you know someone on here that we can get together, make sure that we report it, because a lot of the trees, we've been getting a lot of complaints on trees on Woodbine, between Central and Evergreen, Colbert. I think there's a lot of, we haven't had a contract in pruning for a while. I think it's every 6 years they're supposed to have it. So we don't know what's going on with that. We'll follow up.
It's a 7-year cycle. They say it's the industry standard. There's a map in the CB office you can check. I would actually be curious. So I know PD technically is not responsible for trees. However, they do have, I don't know if Community Link is still active, operational, if the deputy inspector be able to speak to that in terms of any success with pruning trees, because I think that would be helpful.
Yeah, so in front of the 8-4 precinct, there was a large tree, and it was obviously dead. So we just reached out, Department of Parks, they came, they inspected it, they came and took it down. So if you're seeing a tree that looks dangerous, like it's going to die or fall over, 311 complaint, if you know your QT member or Community Affairs, reach out. We can navigate the other agencies. I can push for an inspection, especially if you think it's going to fall over because it's a safety issue, and that might move faster. Pruning is probably more along your lines, FD&Y stuff. My uniform will melt in a fire, so we try to stay away. It's metal, it's rubber, right? So we set up the streets. If you're seeing something that you think is unsafe, 311's, if you write it fire-related, it will go to FD. If you're very fearful again, you can always reach the community affairs. We can get a contact or a liaison and kind of touch base like that. So,
Hi, I just wanted to directly speak to the tree question very quickly. My name is Zach Hendricks. I'm a Community Board 4 member, and I'm going to talk about what I do for my job, but I do have information. So New York City Parks actually has a fairly newish tool within the last couple of years that's called the NYC Tree Map. And I'll write down the link for everyone. It's tree-map.nycgovparks.org. I hate that as a thing. tree-map.nycgovparks.org. I didn't come up with the URL. But I do have information directly from our forestry team that this is actually a better and quicker way to get your complaint resolved than a regular 311 request, because this actually directly links into the parks forestry team's back-end service. So if you put something in, it's not just like, on 311 you go in and you try to put in a complaint and it's like, where is this? And can you submit a picture and do all this stuff? Since this is a map of all the trees that exist exactly, you are picking a specific tree that Parks already has a record of, and you're saying this tree, this is the specific problem with this one. Put in your information. I've used it a couple of times already in the last couple of weeks, and I've had really quick responses. So I would just recommend that people do that, and you can grab me at any time after, and I can show you, but it works on phones and stuff. I can show you. Anything that's on the sidewalk, except in rare occasions, is under the jurisdiction of New York City Parks. All the thousands and thousands and thousands of trees, and there are not enough people. That's a separate issue.
Felix Ceballos, CB4 member. Thank you, Impacto, for the job that you did in Knickerbocker Parade. Very good job. Was a lot of people, more than the last year. And another thing what I mentioned is the situation what I said before about those businesses make a lot of noise in the neighborhood. Like Camacho said, a lot of people have to go to work in the next day. So that's not fair. The more support we can get from the precinct, we're going to appreciate that. Thank you.
Hi, Red Cadets. Hello? Can everyone hear me okay? All right. Red Kadetsky, CB4 member. I have a question. Well, first I want to shout out the trees. You can be, they're great. We love the trees. Also, through the community board, we were actually offered in these past few months a discounted and subsidized rate to become citizen pruners. I had just received my citizen pruner, and yeah, trees. It's super easy. Maintaining our street trees is a really great way that we can preserve the health of the trees, that keep it cool, especially as we continue to encounter increasingly hot summers. And at the same time, and then I will get to my question, and at the same time, the more we care for the trees, the less likely, not impossible, but the more we're able to mitigate any large branch falling because the health of the trees is maintained. It protects against rot, it protects against infection and disease. Care for our trees, care for our neighborhood. Anyway, my question, to bring it back to the earlier discussion, is the trespass affidavit. I'm not particularly familiar with the process. I was wondering if you could go into the application process, if it requires a specific incident report, and also how, just based off of how it was described, I have a concern about how this, understandably, we want to protect the business owner, protect shoppers and whatnot, but also how does it protect against undue discrimination?
So the way it gets implemented is usually the store will catch someone shoplifting, they'll detain them, they'll call the police will come, the store will then decide, I don't want this guy here anymore. Officers will ask why, he comes in every day, he's stolen from me 90 times. We can check and see how many reports the guy's made, but sometimes stores don't report it, right? So when the store determines that, they then serve that individual an affidavit stating they're no longer welcome, all right? That affidavit was written by the district attorney's office. That gets filed and saved. And that day is over. It's just documented. The person is no longer allowed to come inside as per the business, not the employee. So if the employee leaves, gets fired, it's the business holding it. The business is responsible and has to answer as to why they chose this person and whatnot, okay? The next time they go back is when it would be actually implemented, if they stole again the burglary or if they just entered trespassing. Ways it's not, say, abused. I did it for 2 years in the A4 precinct. I've never seen it. Generally, the people they're dealing with have a long arrest history. If you don't see that, PD will question a little bit, like, why are you choosing this person? They've never been arrested. Not just because you've never been arrested doesn't mean not shoplifting, because we have to catch you. But usually it's for the people that the store knows for a long time. They've been arrested at numerous times. You can see it when you run the individual, and that kind of stands out. I haven't seen it used based on my dealings with it. Is there a fail-safe for it? Possibly behind the scenes that I'm not aware of. If that person feels like maybe they shouldn't be given that, they could probably pursue that on their own, I guess, that store, that franchise, with their own method of that. I haven't seen that, so I can't really speak on if that's ever occurred or not since I've been using it.
Okay. Christopher Graham, CB4, community board member. My question and comment is regarding the 311, which is a car that has been sitting on my street. So the legitimacy of this, right? So we have a car that has been awkwardly parked. It has a New York registration. It has state of Washington license plates, 2 flat tires, multiple tickets, which have since disintegrated, and it's been sitting on a block for 3 months. We've called and called and called. The street cannot be cleaned as a result of it. And the tow truck actually showed up. The police showed up, and they both looked at the car, and they got back in the cars and they left. And the car has just been sitting there. And I guess I have the complaint numbers, and so if you can please kindly help us out, because we have our annual block party coming up, and I don't want anybody yelling at me that the car is still sitting there in front of their gate during this festive time, because everybody looks forward to that. So thank you so much. I appreciate your help.
So that's more of a personal thing. We should follow up before I leave with that. But so we don't, unfortunately, I don't have tow truck drivers. No one on the department drives a tow truck. I'm relying on the tow truck companies and the civilians to actually show up and actually remove the car. I can't force anyone to take a vehicle. I can tell them it qualifies, that it matches, that it should be removed, but we have no legal recourse backwards to try to get that car moved. What you're describing sounds very much like a ground ball. You know, you got flat tires, so you know it's not moving. You got different reg, stuff like that. That's probably why I got the summonses. We'll follow up, but that's the biggest struggle with abandoned vehicles is I'm the supervisor. I don't supervise tow truck companies, unfortunately. So if they kind of say, we don't have room, right? That's the most common. I got no room for it. Well, how do you not? I got to get this car out of here. Call me back. And then, they kind of play a game. So it's really frustrating. But that's kind of where we're at. But if you do have that situation, do not give up. We do have other agencies that are more willing and able to tow. The sheriffs are very good at towing vehicles, and Community Link is great at towing vehicles. So I don't know if they use that with your thing, but we can definitely get that done, and we'll follow up, and I'll get that car out of there for you.
Well, I will say this, that if it was someone's personal car who owed tickets and they were able to put the boot on it, they would have taken care of it. Not saying that that's on you, but the monetization of it, there's no opportunity for it to be monetized. And I believe that's why it's still sitting there.
We have one last person there and someone on Zoom, and then we're going to call it a wrap.
Good evening. Good evening, Esteban from Community Board 4. I just want to echo Mr. Ceballos' comments. It's great to see that the Puerto Rican Day Parade was great, and I want to say Happy Pride Month, and also commend you for saying that you had some statistics that were really down, which I think you said was 71% gun shootings, and because June is also Gun Violence Awareness Month. I work for Los Sures, and we have the Wick Against Violence in Bushwick Houses and Borinque when we drive down violence with violence interrupters and provide support to the community. So I'm glad to hear that. I just wanted to make sure I heard correctly, because you did say that gun arrest possessions were up in the precinct. So I just wanted to know if there was more. Do you have the ages for them, or we could follow up? Because one of the things that we want to do is divert, especially our youth, from picking up guns and doing that stuff. So whatever we could do to support and, again, to raise awareness about gun violence, because not only is it some people affected by gun violence, those who are shot, but also the perpetrators, especially if they're young, that are locked up, and their life and their community is also ruined. So thank you.
So as far as the gun arrests, we are up for the year. It kind of goes all through the age ranges. I will tell you that when juveniles arrested, we have to notify some type of parent or guardian. Right now, if that parent or guardian wants to reach out and try to get additional service, we can provide, or we have contacts to give that, but it can't be forced by us. I can't give out that information. I'm very big on people's privacy. It is kind of all across. A lot of commands are struggling with the younger people committing the crimes, and my thing is the youth are going to do something. It's either going to be good or it's going to be bad, but they're going to do something, right? And you hope you have some type of mechanism or some luck or scam to get them just to fall on that good side, right? And I can speak of it, right? I had sports, luckily, and it helped me. You know, not everyone is born to be a police officer, right? They're not. I'm not, right? But I had something that kept me on the right track, but not everyone plays sports. So we've tried with our youth officers, try to get some type of music, some arts. There's usually a woman that does a dance that should come to these meetings, but anything we get these children or these younger people on the right track, you know, if I can do it, we will do it. Unfortunately, when I meet them, it's usually a bad thing, but it's not over. It's maybe the start of a new path that we can try to guide them on. So if there's no more questions or any Zoom, then I'll...
Someone on Zoom.
Gio,
we're telling after this.
Gio's here in person. Gio, did you have something? Okay, we're moving on. Go ahead, Mr. Camacho.
Thank you, Inspector. Thank you. Introduction of elected officials. Another rep, please.
Me.
Yeah. We're moving on. Elected officials and other representatives, name and contact information only. Please come to the middle. Other representatives include agencies, community-based organizations, businesses. Name and contact info only for now.
Hello, my name is Madeline Enlow. I work for the Office of the Brooklyn Borough President, Antonio Reynoso, and you can reach our office at 718-302-3708. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Samantha Ortiz, and I work for the Office of Councilmember Sandy Nurse. We are located at 56 Pennsylvania Avenue, Brooklyn, New York, 11207. I did not memorize our phone number. It is 718-642-8664. I'm trying. It's not.
Yeah. Yeah, flyers are available in the front. Please speak into the mic.
Good evening, everyone. Jonathan Bancourt here representing Congresswoman Nydia Velasquez. It's not on.
All right.
Good evening, everyone. Jonathan Bancourt here representing Congresswoman Nydia Velasquez. Our phone number is 718-599-3658. Our address is 266 Broadway, Suite 201. Yes, that's it. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Louisa. I'm from the Brooklyn Public Library DeKalb branch at 790 Bushwick Ave. Our phone number is 718-455-3898. I've got flyers as well.
Thank you. Anyone on Zoom?
Go ahead, Debbie, then Maria.
My name is Deborah Villanueva. I'm here on behalf of Assemblywoman Maritza Davila. 673 Harsh Street is our address, right in the corner of Central Avenue. Phone number is 718-443-1205. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Maria Valdez from the Office of Senator Julia Salazar. Phone number is 718-573-1726, and we're located at 212 Evergreen Avenue. Thank you.
All right. I see no one else in person, no one else on Zoom. We will move on now to committee reports. If I can make a suggestion, please summarize, high-level summary.
James Stewart, Shaper Bushwick Chair. The ultimate goal was for us to have the best Shaper Bushwick. I would say we did. So, kudos to the planning committee, to Adelina and the office for the support, for all of you who attended. It was a great event. I thank the planning committee and look forward to next year.
Permits and license.
Christine? All right. We'll come back. We'll come back. We'll keep it moving. Economic development, housing, and oh, wait, Christina's coming. Christina's coming. Sorry, Ann. 1 minute. What, like a high-level overview? Super high level. Turn the mic down towards you. Yeah.
Permits and licenses? Okay, super high level. Hi, everyone. We met last week. I don't know if anyone can hear me. Yeah? We had approximately 5 or 6 applications. Most of them were non-controversial. I can read them out. 2 were quite controversial. One was the sampler, 234 Star Street. They were doing a method of operation change, mostly for karaoke and dancing, but turns out they were actually trying to change their hours well outside our STIPs. Lots of 3-in-1 complaints, ultimately voted not in favor. Next up was Shorts Movie Theater, new movie theater at 236 Troutman, not-for-profit Shorts movie theater dedicated to short films. Hours well within our stipulations. We ultimately voted in favor of that, asked them to get some more signatures. Next up, Frida's Bushwick, a Mexican restaurant on Myrtle Avenue, 1264, full liquor license. Originally slightly outside of our stipulations, agreed to scale back their hours Friday and Saturday to 2 a.m. Ultimately voted in favor. Next up, 8 Bar, 317 Knickerbocker Avenue, was desserts, wants to upgrade to full liquor, I believe, to be able to kind of stay competitive in the neighborhood. Hours within stipulations, clean 3-in-1 record. Obviously, they were just selling desserts before. We voted in favor of that. And then I think almost finally, Vacations at 48 Cypress, as well as Hanks at 613 Bushwick. These are both corporate changes. It really just has to do with a partner coming in, a partner going out, so it doesn't have a lot to do with the day-to-day operations. We did something slightly different on this one, where we, I think, voted for a letter of a no objection on the corporate changes. However, Vacations, I think 7 people showed up to testify against them, with lots of noise complaints, so we decided to write, an additional piece asking them to meet with the residents and as well notify the SLA that we've had all of these complaints. And there was one no-show who was L. Wooden Spoon at 189 Wilson Avenue. As is, the way we've set up our process these days. When they don't show, they don't communicate with us, we vote not in favor. And then
Hello.
There was a
If y'all want to talk, go outside, please. Thank you.
There was a cannabis applicant, Jolly Green Soldiers, 412 Knickerbocker Retail Dispensary. They did not appear and said that they would come at a later date. I think that is everything. Okay. That wasn't a minute.
Hi, everybody. Ann Guiney, Economic Development and Housing and Land Use Chair. We met on Tuesday, May 26th, last Tuesday of the month. Come one, come all. Next year, we had one. It was a pre-certification for a ULURP application for 150 Knoll Street. The building is built. It is residential. What they are asking for is a commercial overlay on the ground floor. We raised some very serious concerns, even though this is just pre-certification, because they have already rented those 2 businesses. I think they knew what they were doing. We raised our hand and we said, why are you coming to us now and not 3 years ago when you were planning this and building this, or 5 years ago? I think the lawyer even knew that he didn't have a very good answer. We raised some serious concerns. He's going to bring them back to the owners, the clients. And we had the great good luck of having our council member, Jennifer Gutierrez, on the Zoom at that time. She joined the meeting for a different issue, and she said in some fairly salty language to the lawyer that this was an unacceptable way of going about a land use request. As a committee, we were super straightforward. We're like, we are not trying to penalize the person who has a hair salon there or, wants to open a whatever kind of store it is. What our big concern is that this is a backdoor approach to a rezoning, and that is not what I think anybody would ever want to see. It's not good land use planning. It's not good anything. And so we will be having many more robust conversations with the same folks in the next year when they come back to us. Then lots of fun stuff in committee mail. Heartily recommend, hot read as ever, and I will see you in the fall.
District Office Committee, we met Thursday, June 4th at 6 o'clock in the office. There were several things on the agenda in regards to excessive and absence or excused and unexcused absence are both counted equal. I just wanted to reiterate on the city charter, it says members may be removed for cause by the board president or majority of the vote of the board in accordance with due process. Cause is not specifically defined in this chapter. However, one example of cause specifically noted in the charter is submissible of non-attendance at board or committee meetings over a 6-month period. So it specifically says over a 6-month period. Under the city chart, under our bylaws, we have a total of 3 absences, excused and unexcused, over a period of 6 months from the regular monthly assigned committee meeting shall consist significant cause for removal from the board. So we have some board members, really one that we're recommending for removal, 7. So we only meet 10 times, 20, she has 7. All we do is we make a recommendation, we send it to Borough Hall, and Borough Hall tells us, why was this person absent? So why wasn't he in the meeting? So there are cause and reason why. That doesn't mean he can't remove you. That's just something that we can say, well, he was sick, he had a family member, we can plea for him and say, well, they were sick, there was this. But if you got no show, you got nothing, then there's nothing we can do. So there's one person that the committee recommended to remove from the board with 7 absences. Also, and there was also a conflict of interest board notice on there, which is a review discussion 2,500 invoice for underwriting training course held on March 31st, 2020. That was, I think, what we did, right? The 2005 or the invoice? I'm not sure neither where did that come from, but and that was it. And on the recommendations, I will let you know the person's name on the recommendation.
Go ahead.
Okay. Virgie Jones, chairperson for Youth and Education. So we met on Thursday, June 12th at 6:13. 6 members were present. And on our agenda, we had Eli Samuel, Sammy Samboy, the founding executive director for Youth Aviators. He gave a preview of the program, a wonderful program, and it's about aviation. And he talked about I'm trying to make this brief because he gave a lot of good information. But he talked about empowering the youth while building pilots. Students were introduced to a wide range of aviation careers, including pilot roles, flight attendants, ground crew, air traffic control, and other support positions. And he talked about the different developmental skills, critical thinking, time management, reading comprehension. He also spoke about the licensing pathways for private pilot license, commercial pilot license, airline careers, which I said already, and the current need and requests. The program actively seeks sponsorships, grants, and donations from airlines, brands, and local businesses. And the space that they have now, they're seeking space for 2 to 3 hours, 2 to 3 times a week for simulator-based classes. DYC is for youth program grants, and we talked about that. Community-based organization for hosting a partnership, city registration, and vendor processes. And that's about it as I summarize for him. And he wants the youth aviation program, outreach to El Ponte, the libraries, and other CBOs. And the program is seeking support space with DYC, navigation, enrichment center connections, and city processes. Then we also had a presentation from Quebe Cote, the founder and director of marketing, Bushwick Film Festivals. It was founded in 2007, so there's 19 years since they've been here, and they're celebrating their 19th year. Every October, they have a 5-day annual program across multiple venues in Bushwick, Williamsburg, and occasionally at Borough Hall. And I've attended several of those, and they've been very nice and very instrumental. So what do they look? She talked about the filmmaking participation and diversity, which has become very diversified over the years. And what are they looking for? Their vision, permanent space, permanent film and media center in Bushwick. And they went over several different options for getting potential structure for it. And that's it. Right. And then we had a question and answer. And also one of the people that attended from OYA Group, they talked about that they're having every third Thursday of every month from 7 to 9 at 214 Star Street. And they have it hosts free poetry workshops with known poets, and it's been curated by Royal Marsh. All right, that's the end of my report. Thank you so much for your time and attention.
All right, moving right along. My report, chairperson's report. I went real quick. I went to basically all the meetings that everybody here on committee it's been. I just wanted to address some really good things that are going on. I went at June 9th at 11:45. There was DYCD is working with Woodhall Hospital and doing, it was a meet and greet with programs in regards with youth in Bushwick and Williamsburg that may have runaway and homeless youth. There are programs 16 to 25 they're starting. I requested them to come over as soon as to go through committee to make a presentation because I'm part of the NBA, which is the Neighborhood Advisory Board, in regards to the youth. So there will be services in regards to runaway youth. There's going to be a location on the 5th floor in Woodhall on Flushing. There is a grant funding in Queens and Jamaica. Those are falling through the cracks. Out of reach, there's a lot of, they would need to come and make a presentation because there's a lot of intense things that they're going to do that from 9 to 7, Monday through Thursday. Friday is closed at 5. Is a treatment. They're going to have a psychologist, psychologist, social worker, creative art therapy, a case manager, and peer counseling in Woodhall. So their DYCD, which is Department of Youth and Education, are doing this program. The hours are there. I want them to come to the youth committee and see if in September they can make a presentation in regards to the service they're having for our youth in Woodhall Hospital. So we're going to follow up with them. I also want to thank Riseboro Town Hall. I was in Riseboro Town Hall on Wednesday, June 10th. I was also at the press release with our Eric Delan at 422 Central in regards to the funding that they're going to put at Hope Garden Center Saturday. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for all of you that came out to support Barbara Smith. It was wonderful. Her kids were there. All the elected officials that came, thank you, thank you, thank you. Her kids were there. Her grandkids were there. It was a really, there was a bench and there was a plaque on her bench, and she will be missed. I missed her dearly. Me and her was on the phone all the time, every day. We love her, and we're going to miss her. I'm going to say what she always says, man. If it ain't about Bushwick and about all of us, then it's not about anyone. She was always talking about Bushwick, her daycare that she ran with the kids, and how she got involved. So,
And that's spelling Community Board 4. Mr. Camacho gets very emotional about this. And there are people here who didn't know who Barbara Smith was. Barbara Smith helped build this freaking community to what it is today. Barbara was there for all of us anytime we needed her. Barbara was the chair of the A3 Precinct Community Council, and she was a member of this community board. And if you had a problem, she would reach out. And when it came to politicians, she didn't kiss behind. She made them do what they had to do. So we had to be there for her. And it was really great to see that the politicians from Brooklyn came out and supported the family throughout this.
thank you, Madam Chair. And also the A3 Precinct Council, I was there, which was Tuesday, and today the full board meeting. And that is my report.
All right, I'm going to give you the remix tonight. I got 3 things. May 27th, Evergreen had their annual celebration at Radio Star. We weren't able to join them this year, but just wanted to say congratulations and acknowledge them. 2 important notices. The NYC Charter Revision 2026, it's happening again, folks. Pay attention. The Commission on Government Efficiency, COGE, the first 3 hearings, Thursday, June 11th, Wednesday, June 10th, Tuesday, June 9th. That was last week. The June 11th hearing was at Brooklyn Law School. The topic was modernizing government technology. I heard a lot about 311 tonight. Sounds like we need to modernize that technology. The other 2, streamlining government for small business and communities. We talked a lot about economic development and also streamlining infrastructure and public realm projects. We all know that we have issues with the sewer system in the neighborhood. We also have a $390 million investment. Hopefully we can streamline that into being a reality so we don't have to sit here in more storms and get flooded. And the last notice I have for you, New York Knicks, the parade is tomorrow. So screening, we do not have a float. Screening, sorry folks. Screening opens at 6 a.m. and the viewing will be Broadway between Battery Place and Chambers Street. A lot of information is posted online on the mayor's office or street activity permits, the street activity permits office. So that's my.
Sellers, can I take a minute? I'm sorry. I went to Roundtable. This was very important. There was a Bushwick Star had a movie. I know some of the board members went there. You should have seen these seniors in a play. I couldn't believe it. I know some of you guys there. Chris was there. Some of the board members were there. You had seniors that came in their buses to do a full acting play. It was, thank you, Roundtable. It was to see those seniors in their 80 and 90 years old with wheelchairs and acting and dressing, and they played the part. To see these seniors come out there and act and did this play, it was. I know, Kristen, we couldn't believe how and Parks, they came out. Some of the people that came out to support the seniors, it was wonderful. They were so happy. Roundtable, thank you. Maybe we should have them come do that play. It was good. It was I know Barbara Jackson got married on that play. It was a wonderful play, and you had to see these seniors, man. It was mind-boggling. It was really nice, and it was good to see the Friends of Irving Square Park there came out, and the first thing that he came to me and told me, it broke my heart. And to this day, first thing he told me, Camacho, how can I get involved with Roundtable? I was like, you know, people come to the community and they do what they want to do, and they come here and they fight. He wants to get involved with our seniors to go out there and say, I says, well, we'll talk to Barbara. Maybe we can get some of them seniors out there to come and do the play or work with you to do something. So, Barbara Jackson, thank you.
That event was made possible by the Bushwick Star, who has provided funding from our local elected officials to work with the Roundtable Older Adult Center. And that was my report, everybody. We're moving on. Recommendations. We have recommendations. Camacho.
There was only one. Tara Jones was the only one that was for excessive absences. Anyone? Huh? Or the recommendation was to remove her from the board for absences. She have 7.
Motion from the board. Anybody? Jason Garris makes the motion. And that was in support of the committee's recommendation? Okay. All right. Just want to be clear. All right. Is there a second? Second by Felix? Okay. All in favor? Any opposed?
Any abstention?
Okay. Hold on. Yep. Let me just, I have abstain, Issa. Gio abstain. Okay, so I have Esteban, Isa, Courtney, and Gio abstained. Any opposed or any other abstained? I don't see anyone on Zoom. All right, this motion carries.
Motion carries.
Next, permits and licenses. Do we want to start with the good neighbor policy? Is that okay with everyone?
Yeah.
Is there a motion to do anything with that?
Yeah.
All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, one moment. Any other abstained or opposed? All right, and just want to clarify that was Ann with the motion, Courtney with the second. This motion carries. Thank you, folks. Next. We have the permits and licenses recommendations. Is there a motion for a blanket vote? Do we need Christine to repeat them? Okay. Okay. So we have two things happening here. We have a motion for the blanket vote first. Is there a second for the blanket vote? So James made the motion, Courtney seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions from the blanket? Seeing and hearing none, motion carries. And then we want a repeat of the recommendations. Do you mind summarizing, Christy?
The sampler 234 star method of operation change. Sorry, method of operation change. The sampler 234 star. We voted not in favor. Shorts, because it was 301 complaints outside of our hours. Shorts movie theater 236 Troutman supported with additional signatures. Frida's Bushwick recommendation to support when they scale back their hours to comply with stipulations. 8 bar 317 Knickerbocker recommendation to support. Vacations and Hanks, both were corporate changes. We said no objection, but wanted to call attention to all the complaints that we received regarding vacations. And then we had the the two non-responsive applicants. One was Elwood and Spoon, which was for the SLA, and one was Jolly Green Soldiers, which was a cannabis retail dispensary. That was at 412 Knickerbocker, and Elwood and Spoon, was at 189 Wilson. We voted not in favor of those, and that is all.
Thank you. Is there a recommendation or a motion on the recommendation? So, are you? Okay. Ms. Spellin, motion to accept the committee's recommendations. Is there a second? By Courtney Henley. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? I see none opposed. Any abstentions? I see none abstained. Okay, motion carries. And I believe that is all, correct? All right, we did it. Old business,
old
going
business.
once, going twice. New business, going once, going twice. Announcements. I don't know if anyone wants to make a motion on announcements. Okay, there's a motion for 1 minute. Ben Tucker seconds. All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, folks, with announcements, please line up in the middle of the room. You have 1 minute. We will be timing you. I got Ben first, so Ben said his name.
Hi, my name is Lola Member. I'm the owner of St. James Libations. We are a wine bar on Sandhope and Irving. It's a black woman-owned wine bar, a queer-owned wine bar. We focus on BIPOC, Indigenous, and POC winemakers. We do a lot of event programming to support black, brown, and queer creatives in the city. This upcoming Thursday, we have a free event from 5 to 8 p.m. It's called Who Gets to Live Here? It's a conversation on gentrification and housing affordability or lack thereof in the city and what we can do to help change that. We're doing this in partnership with a couple of different collectives, Hot Girls Who Organize, Xavier Mission. Also have support from Senator Jabari Brisport, and we also have Christian Celeste Tate, who will be joining us. We are inviting everyone to come out and contribute to the conversation. There's also going to be information and resources on how to get access to money to help with back rent, how to find hot meals and free groceries, and also just how to have a conversation on fixing the housing problem in the city. In our lower level, we also will have artwork on display from artist Andrina Marie Osario, who is a 28-year-old Puerto Rican artist from the Bronx who resides in Brooklyn. She has incredible artwork on display, so please come out and enjoy.
Thank you.
Yes, tomorrow from 5 to 8 p.m. It's a free event.
Tomorrow.
All right, I'm Louisa from Brooklyn Public Library, DeKalb branch at 790 Bushwick Ave. We have a lot going on, but I'll just announce that we are showing World Cup games at the library, including snacks, And we have these really cool passports that you can get. We stamp them, and you can go around to different events across the 5 boroughs and explore and go to the games. So hopefully you'll join us for the games and see you there. Thanks.
Hello, everybody. Joe from Friends of Irving Square Park here. 2 things I want to announce. First is like a big plant swap and gardening swap for all you green thumbs or aspiring green thumbs. On Sunday the 28th at the farmers market, you can come and trade plants, cuttings, pottery, soil, whatever you want to exchange. That's fun. And then the Bushwick Family Day, which happens every year, is going to be on July 18th, Saturday. Huge barbecue, free food, great music, great tunes. Just spend all day at the park. It's an awesome time. So come out on July 18th, the Bushwick Family Day. And that's it.
All right, hello again, everyone. We have a couple events coming up through the Office of the Brooklyn Borough President, Antonio Reynoso. All of the following events, there are flyers for them on the table over there. So join us for Brooklyn Mundial, a series of World Cup watch parties across Brooklyn to celebrate the world's biggest soccer tournament coming to New York City. There will be celebrations in Greenpoint on June 17th, Coney Island June 19th, Bushwick June 19th, and Cypress Hills June 25th. We also have a Juneteenth Jubilee and Youth Sports Day coming up on June 20th. Join us for a day of sports skill building, wellness resources, and cultural engagement in honor of Juneteenth. It will run from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at Kaiser Park on Neptune Avenue. On June 20th, we also have an event at Brooklyn Borough Hall, that's 209 Geralman Street, to come adopt an animal, a shelter animal. Come meet adoptable shelter animals outside Brooklyn Borough Hall and maybe bring home a new furry friend between 11 a.m. and 4 p.m. And this year, all of our ULURP hearings will be on the second Wednesday of the month. And to learn how to protect your SNAP benefits, you can call our Constituent Services Office at 718-302-3700. Thank you.
Hello, good evening. Juan Cerati, CB4 member. Something I felt was important to share with the community is that we have early voting going on. So please, please get involved with exercising your civic duty. I heard that they might be dropping a New York Knicks themed sticker tomorrow, so you might want to get that if you plan on voting as soon as possible. But we care about this community. Go to the ballot boxes. Go express yourself in that way. That's the healthiest way to do it. Thank you.
Pablo Rivera, Bushwick Sports. I run Bushwick Sports and Recreation. We're still doing registration. In about 2 weeks, we're going to open soccer over here on Linden. I think it's called Hector Field, right? And we have free clinics every Sunday. Bring your neighbors, your kids, your grandkids, from 3 to 12. Come and see 3 and 4 year olds play and practice. It's really, really something to see them, right? You can call us. We have 439 Wilson. You can call us at 347-388-8271. If you don't get me right away, leave a message. Somebody will get back at you. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Jonathan from Congresswoman Nydia Velasquez's office. June 1st marked the first day that some New Yorkers become eligible to lose their SNAP benefits under the new federal work requirements that took effect in March. It's a provision that was included in the big, beautiful bill. It was very big, but it's not beautiful. They cut $295 billion from SNAP over the next 10 years. At the same time, gave the top 1% a tax cut, a $1 trillion tax cut. We now have a trillionaire. Can't wait for that to trickle down. It's estimated, and along with that, the American people are feeling the effects of this war. It's estimated to already cost the American people $70 to $100 billion in long-term economic burdens. Legislative news, the House passed the 21st Century Road to Housing Act. The Congresswoman secured provisions to open federal housing programs to co-ops and strengthen congressional oversight of NYCHA's federal monitor. The Senate, it now moves to the Senate, and we hope it passes. Just one last thing, I'm sorry, 10 seconds. As we all know, the Congresswoman is retiring. Many things can happen over the summer, so if this is my last time seeing you, it's been an honor, and I will always be around. Thank you so much, and stay in touch. Thank you so much. Go Knicks.
Yeah, yeah. This is going to be quick. Although, unfortunately, it's a little bit of a downer, y'all. I wanted to make sure that everybody in this room is aware. We talk a lot about community spaces, and I wanted to let everybody know that there's going to be a town hall at Mayday Space this coming Monday from 5:30 to 8:30 p.m. For those of you who maybe aren't aware, Mayday Space is a really important pillar in this neighborhood, hosting a lot of mutual aid, language access classes. Also, I mean, the list goes on and on and on. I don't have time in a minute to say that, but I just want to very quickly read their statement actually from Instagram. We share the difficult news that our landlord has decided to sell the building that Mayday operates from. This has been an ongoing sort of battle and struggle for those who are aware. As of now, it looks like we will be in the space at least until the end of 2026, but we wanted to share that with this with anticipation, recognizing this information affects your programming and future planning. This is a valuable part of our community. We invite that neighbors come with questions, ideas, skills, connections, offerings as we move through this together. We will get through this together. So if Mayday Space has been important to you at any point in your time here in Bushwick, I would encourage people to try and get out there. Early voting isn't happening that day, so you don't have to worry about that.
Hello again, everybody. Christian Celeste Tate, First Vice Chair. Two things. First, I want to just +1 the reminder to vote. No matter who you support, it's really important that we get out there and our community make our voices loud. Early voting has already started. The last day to vote is June 23rd, next Tuesday. And like Zach said, there's no voting at all on Monday, so don't plan to go on Monday. And then second, I want to just say thank you to this board. You know, I value really deeply the work that we do here together week after week and month after month. And no matter what happens on Tuesday, I'm looking forward to being back in this room after the summer break and getting back to work.
On Zoom, we have Maria, followed by Andrew. Go ahead, Maria.
Good evening, Maria Valdez from the Office of Senator Julia Salazar. As a reminder, we continue to have tenant support unit in our office the first Tuesday of every month from 10:30 to 12. We also continue to have COF in our office. So if anyone is interested or needs support with their Housing Connect applications, they're welcome to come in every Tuesday from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. No appointments necessary. Also, as a reminder, we continue to have homeowner counseling and financial education services with certified HUD counselors providing assistance with first-time home ownership guidance, foreclosure prevention counseling, state planning support and resources. And as always, if anyone need any support contacting a state agency, you can always reach out to our office at 718-573-1726. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, Andrew.
Sure. Hey, Andrew Choi, CB4 member here. Just wanted to share a quick word about the concerned citizens of Grove Street Garden, where it's on Grove between Evergreen and Bushwick. Space many of y'all are familiar with, but if you're not, historic Green Thumb space, BQLT, Brooklyn Queens Land Trust space. We've been rooted in the community since 1981. It's a space that was also stewarded by our much appreciated Assistant District Manager Lewis. But we're in an exciting moment right now. We're trying to reorganize a bit how we govern ourselves, rethinking our relationship with our fiscal sponsor, which has been El Puente's Bushwick Center. Moving forward, we're looking for stewards, we're looking for garden members. If you want to get involved, Lewis or Celeste has my contact. You can reach out to me directly at 508-361-9345. Please come grow with us. Thanks.
Thank you. All right. I don't see anyone else on Zoom or in person. We will move on now to the second roll call. Board members, please be ready. Linda Whitfield. Yefim Verdernikoff. Michael Varley. Crystal Vargas. Ben Tucker. Christian Tate. James Stewart. John Stanesco. B. Spiederman. Annette Spellin. Juan Cerati. Eunice Santiago. Milagro Sandoval. Josue Salazar. Eliseo Ruiz. Raul Rubio, Pablo Rivera, Shrey Richardson, got you, Pablo. Cirilo Nunez, Zuma Novoa, Christine Malden, Fabrice Latchman, Nancy Keith, Red Kadetsky, Giovanni Justiniano, Luisa Jose, Tara Jones-Thomas, Virgie Jones, Barbara Jackson, Courtney Henley, Zachary Hendrickson, Nima Huck, Ann Guiney, Thomas Green, Christopher Graham, Jason Gares, Alan Gamboa, Esteban Duran, Kimberly Colclough, Andrew Choi,
Present.
Felix Ceballos, Robert Camacho, Lateef Bunting, Deborah Hicks,
Good night.
George, got you, George Benjamin, Paula Amanzar, Isa Abni. Folks may line up to serve yourself some of the food, but a motion to adjourn as well. Courtney made the motion. Second. Say name. Nancy, got it.
All in favor?
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Thank you.
Happy spring or summer recess, everyone. 9:02.
Que tengan buenas noches. Good night.